right.
He's there.
Sorry. Sorry I'm a little late.
I will hold it against you.
You probably will. You're gonna be a bitch like that.
Absolutely.
Don't. No. No. How you been,
I
man?
went there. Good. How are you?
I'm good. It'd be better if people pay their damn bill. Holy shit.
I tell you, it's one of those things where it's like you make a commitment, you put the money down, and then all of a sudden you're like, nah, go fuck yourself. And I'm like, wait a minute, how does this work?
That's exactly it's freaking nuts. We are running right now in like our call it like a 90-day accounts receivable, about 100 grand in
Mhm.
90-day accounts, which by the way, our invoices are all due on delivery. We
Yeah.
usually give like a 10-day grace period, but about 100 grand in 90 days. In the
Hmm.
last 10 days, we probably got 25, 30 grand in 10 days, unpaid invoices, where like people made commitments. We've delivered product and service, and a lot of people are like, what do you mean that you're an insurance agent? Well, we do other things. Like I've got a bunch of other shit I do as well, right?
Yep.
Where it's not an insurance company paying me. It's like we've
Yep.
delivered the product and service. We'd like to be paid, you know? You can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. So
I was gonna say that's my biggest fear with next year with my partnership program. People are like, I want in, and it's a 15 grand cost, but I can't pay monthly. I'm like, only if you promise you're gonna commit to pay the full year, because I'm buying software, Facebook leads, all this other stuff to grow the pie. So, that all costs money. So I can't have you just say you're going to commit and then halfway through the year be like, I'm good, thanks, but no thanks.
dude,
So,
we've had so much of it. So we have all sorts of like, hey, this is 5 grand, but we will finance you at 500 a month, and you're paying extra to do that. And then, 12-month hardline commitment. We could take them to small claims court on it because they make a hardline commitment. It's right there in the purchase. You're agreeing to this. But
mhm,
my good name's worth more than that. So we let them
yep.
off the hook. And dude, we're talking to the tune of probably 250,000 plus a year and people backing out of shit. But again, we're providing 100% of the product, the service, the value day one.
Yep.
So 100% of the cost is there day one. And they
Yep.
stick around for 2, 3 months. And so we're over it. Moving into next year, we're going to do something totally different. We're not going to do financing. You can either pay up front or you can scholarship. So
Ooh.
scholarshiping is a cool idea.
Ooh, I'm intrigued.
Scholarshipping, dude, and you might take some of this. So I'm speaking at least in this regard about our program, right?
No.
We've got, these different levels to our groups, 100 a month, 500 a month, 1,000 a month, or what it's
Mhm.
supposed to be is $1,000 up front, 5,000 up front, 10,000 up front. We're actually adding a new group within the next week as well, hopefully, if my team will get off their ass and put it together, but it's $9.97 a month.
Oh, wow.
Oh, dude, it
Wow.
it should be cool. And by having access to it, you should get discounts on other things insurance agents are already paying for, of like 1 to 200 a month. You have to literally be stupid. Like even if you don't want to use it, you're gonna save a couple hundred a month by doing it, right?
So what's the secret sauce to 997 versus 10,
It's actually kind of crazy. So it's the same as like when you price a car. When you
Yep.
price a car and put it online on Craigslist or wherever you do it, there's a lot of people that are going to go in and run a filter for, I'm only looking for cars at 30,000 or less. And you only wanted, you really would like 30,500,
Yep.
right? But the filter says it's cut off. So 30,000 to 50,000 is a category. So if you would have been happy with 29,999, you're cut off. You're just not even in there.
Wow.
So you're better off to go 29,999 when they run a filter, you still show up.
That's amazing. I didn't even think of that because, like, before I got in the insurance industry, I worked for Circuit City, and someone would come in with the newspaper. They're like, "Where's that one you have on sale?" I was like, "Oh, the $300 one, like laptop." Like, no, it's 299. I was like, "Okay,
Yep.
But there's a secret sauce to it, and I was just like, it baffles my mind the mind games that people get with these like minor things, but
It's
you
a it's
know.
a sales psychology. That's all it is. The other thing is this. So with our $10, call it a $10 a month program we're launching, when folks are going through and they're like, hey, I got to cut expenses. So the
Mhm.
idea of this was put something out there where make it so stupid cheap and the value you get is so stupid much, you'd have to be stupid not to buy it.
Yep.
And then secondly, once you bought it, you'd have to be stupid to cancel it, i.e., you're
Yeah.
getting discounts on other stuff you're already paying for, not through me. Like we're
Hmm.
talking about the print store, we're talking about with NAFA and all these other things, right?
Yep.
So make it to where you'd have to be literally stupid to cancel it. However, one thing I found in doing what we do is that there are a lot of stupid people. I hate to say it. I hate to say it because I really do. Like, it's not that I think ill of people, but there are a lot of stupid people. And when push comes to shove, and it's like, well, I have to cut all my expenses, right? So when they
Hmm.
do that, most people these days don't spreadsheet their expenses. They don't. Instead, they'll go in the App Store and they'll download. There's one, I want to say it's like Rocket something, not Rocket Mortgage, it's Rocket, but it'll basically
Same.
come through. It'll tell you where do you have duplicates, where do you have like what subscription based. We're a subscription based because we have an ongoing authorization on a card, right? So it'll pick
Hmm.
that up
Hmm.
and then it applies filters, right? And it's going to tell you what's the most imperative to get rid of. Like this is your highest category. Well, 10 to 50 a month is a category. 997 is not in that category, right?
Wow.
And so
Wow.
we get ranked clear down here when you're looking at order of priority to cancel stuff. If it's like, hey, here's your 10 to $50 a month stuff that's eating you alive, we don't get put in that category. We get so just a lot of sales psychology and then filter.
Smart.
So
It's like Netflix, once you get hooked on it, you can't get off it. And then they're like, oh yeah, we're going to raise it up another $5, another $10. Like YouTube TV, I just got a notification that's going to raise another $10 like next year. And I'm sitting here going like, damn it, I'm going to
oh,
pay
bro,
it.
I did you see the post I had? I had it up for like 24 hours and then I took it down because I was like, I'm gonna get some folks in trouble. Did you happen to
No,
see the one about TV services?
no, no.
Shoot me a message after this. I'm gonna get you a hookup. It's freaking cool. We'll just leave it at that because this is an evergreen asset that's gonna live there. Just shoot me a message and I'll get you a hookup to some stuff that it's gonna solve all that for you.
I like that because, like, it's part of it is we get the football package because, the family's all loving the NFL. We're down here in the South, so it's the SEC. And then, I'm hockey guy, so I'm a big Sabres fan, sadly. And so,
Go
you get,
Knights.
yeah, you're welcome, Eichel. But with that being said, like, you got to get ESPN Plus to get the NHL. You got to get Prime, Paramount, like all these other Peacock and all these other places just to get the freaking NFL. And it's just like it's getting crazy.
Dude,
So
I'm telling you, you won't need any of it. A little bit up front, nothing on the back end.
I like that. I like
So,
that.
so I won't say anything else, and nobody else hit me up. Just Phil.
I
Run a
will.
VPN. No, 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 no. Government's going to be on the look for VPNs with this TikTok ban.
Oh my gosh. Is it actually going to happen or no?
I mean, they had the appeal and it passed the
Mhm.
appeal. They said it's constitutional. So we'll see. I think, it goes away January 19th. Trump gets into the office on the 20th and Trump was against it, but we will see. And
He
it's not
was
like
he
he can
was
go
and
back.
wasn't.
Yeah, it's not like he can go back and veto but after the fact. So I don't know. And then I heard some whisperings that where it passed the appeal, TikTok is now, well, the company that owns it. What's the company that owns it?
There's some Chinese company, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they were going to sell the US based portfolio for TikTok to Disney.
Yeah.
And that might be pure conspiracy. I don't know, but
Yeah,
the
I
news
was gonna say
articles,
I'm a little worried about that. Like Disney's
Mhm.
got their hands in everything, and I mean between us and whoever watches this is I'm a big Disney fan. Like Alice in Wonderland, best Disney movie of all time in my opinion, and I'll still go. I've even gone by myself. I was training for a marathon, and it was a Disney marathon, and so I was there a couple days in advance, and I was like, I'm just gonna go to Disney. So I was the solo guy riding Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff like that, and I don't care. I don't care what anyone says. I love it. And so if TikTok was bought by Disney, I'm all for it. They can be the giant conglomerate. They did, however, ruin Star Wars. I will say that, I will kindly confess that they did ruin Star Wars, and I'm worried about Marvel.
dude, they
But
ruined Snow White. I'm
yes,
just saying, like, nothing against the new movie, but it's not fucking Snow White.
no, it's not. It's
Like
not.
like it is what it is, and nothing against it. No shade. No, it's not Snow White. Snow White
Make
is yeah. Snow White is
so
based
you're.
on a book. This is based
Mhm.
on Coldry, I believe. So I don't know. Feminism, and which is fun. Like if that's your thing, cool. Like be a feminist or be a cuckold or like, what I don't know. Anyways, that's not Snow White.
It's not. I'm very against them, just adjusting old movies to, I'll just say update it. Why can't you get creative like you were in yesteryears and building all these storylines and building something different and make a new analogy, a new story, a new whatever. Because at the end of the day, you're only hurting the people who have supported you for so long by changing their childhood, and these new people may not even be attached to it because of all the backlash or everything else. It makes
Dude,
absolutely no sense.
I saw this interview with Ben Stiller, and I'm not this big pop culture, but I
Yeah.
saw this interview with Ben Stiller, right?
Hmm.
And they were talking to him. They were like, man, Tropic Thunder. Do you remember Tropic Thunder?
Yeah.
But that movie
Robert
actually
Downey Jr.
that movie did really, really well.
It
And
did.
it was a little bit controversial at the time, but they pulled it off. You couldn't do that movie today,
Oh,
right?
hell no.
And so it started this whole conversation, and they're like, why don't you see new creative? Like, agree with Tropic Thunder or disagree with it. You don't see new creative like that anymore. And they were asking him why. And he was like, well, if you'll notice, somewhere in the 20 teens, there was this big, big shift, and everything became about being politically correct and being overly empathetic and all these things. And he's like, and the fear is that like it shut down creative because it's controlled by fear. And so
Hmm.
all anyone can do anymore is take what already exists and try to make it fit social the social not norms, but the social acceptance protocol
Yep.
more. Everything
Yep.
like all creative is gone because if you're creative, you might come out with something controversial like Tropic Thunder. Now, you might create a Cinderella. You might create a, Alice in Wonderland. However, you might create a Tropic Thunder.
Yep.
And you can't risk that because it's not about one movie bombing. Used to be that like, if you had a bad movie, you had a bad movie, shake it off, go get the next one. Anymore, you have a bad narrative, you have a bad creative, you're done.
Yep.
Like you're gone.
Yep.
So,
Well, I was gonna say that to me just reminds me of my favorite show of all time. You couldn't ever produce now. So growing up, I remember I'd sneak into the basement and watch Married with Children, and like religiously could cite that show no problem. And Al Bundy's a pig, plain and simple. He's just a moron. But the show was so cutting edge, so ahead of its time, and they actually really snubbed them because Roseanne came out after, and that was considered the cutting edge show of like a Raw family or whatever. But really, it was Married with Children that started that. And excuse me, I always give credit where credit's due. It's a series that lasted 11 years, and the way that it ended was just so tragic. They just cut it. And the way Ed O'Neill or Al Bundy found out that his show was canceled, he was at a resort and some nice old couple came up and said, "I'm so sorry to hear about your show." He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Oh, it got canceled." And he's like, "Let me buy you lunch." He was so happy that it was from them versus an executives. But it was such a great show at the time with just raw humor where people could laugh and take jokes differently. Whereas now it's if you look even at like Dave Chappelle is getting destroyed by certain groups of people who think that his jokes are attacking them, but in all honesty, he just attacks everybody, and he's quite possibly the funniest comedian that I've ever heard. But it's just he's getting lambasted by certain audiences, and he doesn't care because he doesn't care about the narrative. He just cares about making good comedy,
dude,
and you got to
I think
laugh.
you want to know what's crazy, and this is just I'd like your take on this. What I believe is that when it comes to moral social ethics, or
Mhm.
maybe social moral ethics, I don't know. Here's what's crazy. Here's how twisted we've become as a society. The comics are the most moral of all of us. Why? Because they don't discriminate. Like that's the one big thing. So you saw the Tony Hinchcliffe stuff, with the Trump election and just all this shit, and
Yep.
and the thing is like, yeah, I said some shit about this and that and the other, but it's not that I'm discriminating. Everybody gets it.
Yep.
Everybody gets a little bit of my shit, and that's kind of the hill that mainstream comics have chosen to stand on. I'm not against it. They're just like, look, we're just out to create comedy, and everybody gets it
Hmm.
without like we're not here to pick and choose, and so you can sit here and say, well, they don't get it because of X, Y, and Z. Who cares? Everybody gets it. It is the most
Hmm.
non-discrimination based. And so when you want to talk moral ethics, people are going to disagree with this. I've had some controversial content lately, but fuck it. Like when it comes to moral ethics, everybody gets it. Can anyone
Hmm.
else say the same? Like what other organizations and what other can they say the same that everybody gets it? Everybody is equal opportunity? Like that's the
Hmm.
most equal opportunity standpoint I see in today's society. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Let's get you
Yeah, I
canceled.
mean, yeah, go ahead. I mean, like, from my standpoint, I just sit here and say to myself, it's like when you look at society, and so I grew up getting spanked, and then you have people who are like, "Oh, you don't do that," and teach into their own. It worked for me. It might not work nowadays because it might damage a kid mentally. But the fact of the matter is, you do miss what was, back in the day, the ability to teach your kids the morals and ethics and everything. Now it's like everything's thrown out the window because there's a certain segmentation. Like, I'm not gonna pick on Gen X, but like they were the rebels, they became the parents, and then they're like, man, you do you, fight the man, do this or that, and then all of a sudden it was like touchy-feely. And I feel like as a society, we just gotten a little farther away from discipline, in regards to, just where are the rules? That's the best way to put it. What happened to the rules of society? If I remember straight up getting slapped right across the face in public at a mall because I wanted a balloon, and I was adamant about getting that balloon, and my mom was so embarrassed, slapped me right across the face. And nowadays you'd have people like calling the cops on that person because you touched your kid and something like that, like they know any better. And half the time, it's a lot of these people who are making these arguments might not even have kids, but they think that it's like this social
But
thing
they
that
have a
you shouldn't.
dog.
Yeah,
They have
exactly. The fur babies. And that just drives me bananas. We need people to have kids so we can get the social security up, and
yeah,
stuff like
did
that.
I understand your dog can shit on the floor, but can your dog shit on the floor, pick it up, put it in the oven, turn it on to 350 and let it bake for 10 hours? Like this is different. This is different.
It's very different. Very, very different. But yet people think that they have these responsibilities that are like, and that what drives me nuts too. It's like the Family Guy. You know what grinds my gears? When people who like, I love my cousin, but she's got a fucking Chihuahua. And first off, worst dog in my personal opinion. I don't care if anyone who hears this is like, I don't want to talk to Phil now because I like Chihuahuas. Fuck those dogs. She's got this dog, and then all of a sudden she's like, I want to go to Africa on a missions trip. And I'm like, all right, cool. She's like, hey, can someone watch my dog? It's like, that is your responsibility. You bought that dog. That is not my responsibility. Go pay the money to put it in a kennel like any normal person would do. And oh, by the way, for someone who thinks that the kids are just like, or dogs are just like kids, they're not. You can't put a kid in a kennel. Yes, there's daycare, but you can't put a kid in a kennel and then go off to a magical vacation or a missions trip or whatever. You got to bring the damn kids. So there is a distinct difference, and people just don't realize that because, in my personal opinion, is people nowadays are more afraid of commitment than ever before.
Yeah.
They don't want to make a decision that can go with marriage, that can go with kids, that can go with animals. There's a fear of commitment nowadays because the narrative that you see in the open market is live today, live for yourself. You don't know what tomorrow will bring, and that's why people aren't saving. That's why people, are living in apartments because they want to take these lavish vacations and they don't want a responsibility of home ownership and all the other stuff. It's actually kind of scary how twisted people can be by simple marketing strategies that are coming out to just take our dollars and use them.
Yeah, I don't mind like if they want to do that, if you don't want to have kids, if you want to live in an apartment and go on like that's fine. Just don't turn around and
Yep.
tell me that having a puppy is the same as having a fucking kid because it's not. It's not.
It's
Don't
definitely not.
don't yeah, be like, "Oh, gotta I don't know. There's just so many like don't draw those equations, but then don't turn around if I'm going to give you that grace, like that was your decision to live life that way, right?"
So Comcast sucks.
We all knew that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but they own the world. Like I literally pay for the 1,000 megabits because I work out of my office, but everything's attached to the Wi-Fi, and you can run a speed check on your internet. It's like, yeah, everything is totally fine. You're getting 1,200. You're getting 120% of your allowance. I'm like, why is it that I get all these unstable, things? I have nothing on my computer open except for Zoom.
It goes to shit. I for these podcasts, I drop an Ethernet cable into my laptop just to make sure
Smart.
just to make sure. And even then, there's issues. These internet companies are full of shit. Burger King's full of shit. All these companies are full of shit, but not
What
me.
are you ripping on Burger King for?
Dude, I can't. Well, I will rip on Burger King for this, and I'm a staunch Burger King fan. The original
Yeah.
Whopper is probably a top 5 fast food burger, like
And
all the other stuff, but the original
mhm,
Whopper.
mhm.
I'll rip on Burger King for this. Their fries have gone to shit, and these like novelty Whoppers they keep releasing,
Yeah.
garbage, absolute garbage.
It brings you back in to try to go back to the original Whopper. That's the smartest thing. And
That's
who would
true.
have thought when you add cheese, it just changes it from a $5 burger to a $20 burger. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
it's a I go to Burger King every once in a while for that flame broiled awesomeness. And then I walk out, I'm like, how did I just spend $30 in Burger King on a Whopper and fries? You know, it's just crazy.
You got to quit forgetting
Maybe
cheese, dude. Stop by Albertsons or Kroger on the way over and get some cheese.
slap it on there.
Dude,
Well,
that's
so I'm always a bigger fan of the King versus the McDowell's, but McDowell's doesn't have seeds on their buns, so that's okay. So if you were to say a lineup, you take the best of wherever fast food place, what would your lineup be? I'm just curious.
I don't know. That's such an ambiguous question. We can go so many directions.
I know. That's why I like it.
Dude, I think I've got some controversial top picks though. And like you don't maintain a body like this,
Oh
not
yeah.
enjoying a little fast food, right?
Oh yeah.
So like controversial top picks, and not necessarily one or two, but like they're up there. Burger King is one of them. A lot of people are
Hmm.
like Mickey D's. Fuck Mickey D's. Like literally, don't literally, because that would be gross, but can you see
I agree.
yourself peeling a
Just
sandwich in half? No, don't do it, Phil. Little fish o filet. Can we make that a double patty? The fried's a little abrasive. Can I just get it grilled?
yeah,
Uh,
please. Nice and
no.
smooth.
Burger King's up there. Taco Time, dude.
Never heard of this place.
Taco Time. Maybe it's just a Western US thing. I love Taco Time. Them crisp meat burritos. They're like a flauta. It's
Oh,
oh man. And then they have
that's
these stuffed Mexi fries. It's like a tater tot with bits of like cheddar and jalapeno in there. And
oh my goodness.
oh man.
I just ate lunch, but now I'm getting all hungry again. Taco time? I don't
Taco
think there's any in Tennessee, that's for sure.
Probably not. Others, like I would put at the top, Jollibee's, so underrated.
Hmm.
So everyone's like, oh, KFC or God forbid, Chick-fil-A. I don't, no, I don't do the Chick-fil-A. I hate
No
Chick-fil-A.
Jesus chicken?
Jollibee's and Popeyes are probably the two best fried chicken spots in the US when it comes to like fast food fried.
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever been to Publix? Like, is it
Yeah.
Publix in your area?
Yeah, I lived in
Uh,
Florida for a little while and Publix Deli is spot on.
Their tenders are solid. They are a top five chicken contender in my opinion.
Publix is
Um,
solid. They make a good sandwich too.
oh yeah, oh yeah. They have the jerk turkey. It's the way to go. Low cal, high taste quality, always good with bacon. So I can't complain with that. I will say though, from the fast food perspective, fuck In-N-Out Burger.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
saying,
100%.
saying it.
Garbage institution.
Yep.
All of California is going to be like, "What?
I know.
Y'all aren't doing business with me anyways. Shut up."
Double this. No,
Double D's
it's
nut.
the fries are bad. They're all flaccid, and the burgers like it's you. What a burger can
The
whoop up on them all day any day.
the only thing I will give to In-N-Out is like a while back. This would have been like 28. I was pushing like 300 pounds back then, and I'm getting up there again. Like I'm not close to 300, but I put on 30 pounds the last few years here since we moved to Idaho.
I'm in my
But
bulking phase too.
yeah, I'm in a bulking phase, just
Yep,
without the
the
muscles.
cutting, no
So
cuts.
when I lost all that weight, because I went from almost 300 down to like 210 and lost a bunch of weight. And one of the things I did was keto. A lot of people shit talk it. I'm going to be honest. I've never felt better in my life, ever. Just
Really,
everything felt
really.
good. The mental clarity, my joints felt good.
Hmm.
And on a day when, just shit happened, or maybe I was traveling for work, I will give In-N-Out this. They were kind of the only one for a while there where you could get, what do they call it? I think they call it
Lettuce wrap.
style is lettuce wrap.
Yeah,
And then when keto started getting really popular in like 19, 20, 21, everyone
yeah.
else started doing kind of a lettuce wrap thing. But for a while, In-N-Out was about the only place you could go and get something like that where it wasn't. So you could go to like Dairy Queen and
Yeah.
get a burger and just be like, hey, no bun. And they'd throw it on a bed of lettuce. But then it's like, oh, I got to have a fork. And so
Solid
I will
or
give
flaccid.
In-N-Out. But beyond that, ugh.
Yeah, it just I think it's more of a fad thing. Like, when Facebook first started, it was like for colleges only. Everyone's like, oh, I want a Facebook account. So it's like In-N-Out is only California, only California. And then all of a sudden it just starts going across the country. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, we're getting an In-N-Out burger. And I'm like, it's the things that I miss would be, and this from a food perspective, like In-N-Out can just stay in California.
Mm.
The thing that I miss is like, so I was born in Rochester, New York, hence why I'm a Buffalo Sabres fan, because hour away. But moved to Connecticut when I was like 5. But the one thing that I always missed was Wegmans grocery store. And Wegmans was actually nominated several times for best place to work in the country. They were one of the first grocery stores to have like the hot bar. You could rent VHS tapes, and stuff like that. And it was just one of those amazing things. So like when I found out that when you leave that general area, they completely skip New England. But then they moved down to Virginia. It was like this weird transition. But, Wegmans is, there's, no ploy here other than I just fucking love Wegmans. It's just like they're the best grocery store in all of the country, in my personal opinion. I've had Publix, Stop and Shop, Giant, Kroger, all these places, even like, Walmarts and Targets, nothing beats a good Wegmans. And you just don't see that anywhere in the country, in my opinion, personal opinion. I don't know if you've had the chance to visit the Weg at all.
I've never been
Oh,
to it. No.
I'm 1 degree separation from actually being a Wegman. So I was this close to getting Wegman money, but not close enough. So, now I just gotta go sell insurance.
Yeah, they say close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, right?
And I completely missed on this one.
Dude, so what for you, what else is out there on the fast food like should be up their list, but maybe it's not for some reason?
So the BK is obviously the top one up there for the Whopper. That was actually the reason why I actually like mayonnaise on the sandwich. Mayonnaise on the burger is because of
Mm.
Burger King. Here in Tennessee, it's really a bunch of chicken places. So you got the fight between Chick-fil-A, Popeyes, Bojangles, and then, you've got Zaxby's, you've got Wendy's thrown up in there, you got Publix. So we got a lot of those here, but really in the smattering of my local area is more or less barbecue places. So very, very big competition between barbecue places and bougie coffee shops where I feel like when you take a sip, you have to put the pinky up.
The kind of
So
coffee where a monkey shitted out of its ass a month before, and now like it
it
gives it
costs
that extra
$10.
tang.
Yep, the
Yeah.
perfect marination to cost $10 for a cup of coffee. Like it's sad because like they call it the Nashville bubble or Williamson County where we are because like basically it's been such a transient move. You've got all these different states who have moved here. So Illinois used to be the big one. For every one person from out of state, there would be like 4 Illinoisans who had moved to the Nashville area. Now it's Californians moving over. We still have Illinois and even New Yorkers. But like the crazy thing is that like, it brings in what you call a bubble and all of a sudden the prices go up. So the housing prices went up, which is great. But then they want to offer these bougie restaurants and bougie places to go. And I'm like, for me, I'm a big fan of t-shirt, gym shorts, and flip-flops, which
Hmm.
is very ironic because you see a lot of fat people wearing gym shorts, but they're fat. So it's like it's kind of an oxymoron. But, in my opinion, I want to go to places that can accept people who wear the casual wear versus having to get dressed up. It's like, oh, where are you going? Oh, the coffee shop. It's like, oh, that's not my cup of tea or cup of coffee, I guess I should say. I like the hole in the wall places, where you can either support local business and really just enjoy your time. My favorite bars to go to have absolutely no music in them. They got sports on TV and you can just drink a beer with your friend and just talk about the team that's playing or whatever.
Yeah.
But everything around here is just everyone's trying to make it big. Everyone wants to be a country music star. You have people in like the fucking bathroom with their guitars and shit like that, serenading you while you pee, joking, but it could be that bad at some point. I hope no one watching tries to trademark that. But,
What would they
it's
sing to you if they serenaded you while you peed?
what's that song?
I'm
So
thinking like,
I'm monotone.
Phil,
So
how's your stream so wide?
isn't there a
How are
song of
you
Golden
so
Rainbows or
white?
Golden Raindrops? It was like a 90s song, a pop song. Just it would probably come out bad from my voice. That's why I like to say I'm the monotone magic, because I got no voice inflection, sadly, but some people think I'm funny every once in a while.
Pinch a nut, dude. It'll help the tonality.
I can't even do that. That's all I got.
Oh
Just
man, dude.
oh,
So I've got a Tennessee thing for you here. What do we
okay.
think of Haley Welch?
I don't know. I was gonna say, can you find her?
Tua? No, I
Yeah,
cannot. Dude,
gone
that
to.
meme coin, like what a freaking ripoff. I don't think she'll go to jail. Like, look at her freaking mentors. Look at what they
Yep,
did with NFTs,
yep.
right?
It,
However, how shitty of her.
she just saw the dollars, because I mean, she is the prime example of our society and trying to idolize something, that shouldn't be idolized. In my opinion, it started with, Kim Kardashian and stuff like that, where all of a sudden it doesn't matter, there's no such thing as bad press, right? So, Hawk Tuah just brought out, everyone like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she said that. Then that turned into a meme. Then that turned into her being famous for no apparent reason. But
Yeah.
like, when you think about it, it's now you have other people who are going to whisper in your ear, throw a bag of money in front of you and say, promote this. And you're like, oh yeah, like she probably doesn't know a course in like finance and understanding, like what happens when you get real big. Same thing happens to professional athletes. They work so hard at something for so long, and then they get thrown in the limelight. People throw money at you, and you think that's going to last forever. It's not. And then next thing you know, you're piss poor again. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I feel bad for her,
I
but
don't
not to the
blame her
extent that,
for trying to do something. Like, you got your moment, and like, if you want to perceive that as an opportunity, a gift from above, or whatever, and try and build on that, absolutely cool. Bring
yep,
value.
yep, but
I've
not.
yet to see anything of value other than value that hit her bank account. Shit.
I feel bad more for the investors, but to be quite frank, why the fuck would you invest in that?
You're horny. You're a
I'm not
you're a
not that
65-year
bad.
old Cheeto dust covering your fingers, sitting there in your freaking whitey tighties and your jazzy scooter ass motherfucker, and this 20-year-old comes on and tells you invest in this and maybe you get a phone call with me, or whatever the hell. And I just don't know. I don't know. Or maybe you sincerely thought like, hey, she's the next big thing to blow up. I think, I would disagree. And again, it's not because I have no qualms against her trying. I'm trying to make something myself. So are you. And I
Mhm.
hope one day when I grow up, I can, have made an impact in this world. So I have no qualms with that. We just
Yep.
have different modalities. And I think, you have different modalities from what's going on there as well. So
Yeah, it to me, it makes me feel bad for, the situation. Someone can get taken advantage of so quickly and so easily that it just resorts to that, and people get hurt because of it. I mean, I look back in the day, my man MC Hammer, like I could sing that whole song, well, sing that whole song, and he was just it. But his generosity and his ignorance to money management led to complete and utter bankruptcy. And so, like, not to get too like business-esque, but stuff that we're doing is actually in the sport world too. And we're talking about financial literacy, because these kids nowadays are getting these massive, massive contracts. Like the competitive school, so we're in Franklin. Brentwood is our, rivals, so to speak, in the Middle Tennessee. And their junior, who's their star quarterback, just got a $2 million NIL deal, University of Tennessee, just to be the backup. And so he doesn't have to play his senior year at all, just got 2 million in his bank account. And then these kids just think that this is, going to be easy street. And that's why 78% of people, when leaving the league or, professional sports to some extent, end up poor, because just like Haley, people get taken advantage of. People take the money. They feel like they have to give, mom and dad, or just mom, a house to live in and stuff like that. And they just lack that literacy
quits coming
that,
in, and
yeah, it
people
just,
don't
it's
realize
sad.
it's always surprising to me because this is not like you could spend 30 seconds on Google and find this. And it's like, how much money would I need for perpetual income? So like 2 million bucks, if you were talking perpetual income, and this isn't even perpetual, we're talking like 30 years spend down, which means over the
Yep.
course of 30 years, you probably spend it off. And maybe it's perpetual or maybe you spend it off, but somewhere in between, right? It's the
Yep.
4% distribution rule. So on 2
Yep.
million bucks, I get 80,000 a year. 80,000 a year right now does not afford that lavish lifestyle.
At all.
But how many times do you need to get 2 million bucks to build up enough to where you can have a $2 million per year income?
That's a lot more, especially at a 4% clip. In the Monte Carlo simulation, they're saying even 4% is too much right now. It's more like 2 to 3%.
Yeah, that's Susie
So,
Orman's thing, right?
yeah, yeah. Oh, good old
Good old
Susie. We love her. Her and
you
Dave
bastard.
Ramsey. It was funny because I have a marketer, a virtual assistant who puts together some like posts for my personal Instagram page, and it was like a savings one, but it was from Dave Ramsey, and I went back to her and I was like, "We in the industry don't like him. Can you find a different post? Just from that
Oh, dude,
standpoint."
I love Dave. If you are broke and have to get out of debt, there's
Perfect
nobody
guy.
better.
Perfect
And
guy.
and the other thing is if you have no money and you need to figure out how to start saving, great guy,
Yep.
right?
Envelopes, baby.
Get out of
All
debt,
day.
start
All
saving
day.
at all costs. Beyond that,
Hmm.
subpar.
Oh yeah. Like I was so, he and I hate this because like he's very predatory on churches. And so, in Tennessee, if you go down 65, you'll see his big office building. Our church actually took over another church, took the debt, killed it in 18 months. And the guy who came out to preach a sermon cut a check right down the middle with a big chainsaw, got all excited and this and that, and talk about fiscal responsibility. And so, like, I hate the fact that he basically sells his programs to churches because, like, I feel like there lacks an authenticity, in my opinion, because the churches obviously want to do something good for the people, but, I often question some of the motives behind his
Yeah.
authenticity to that. But then ultimately, like you say, the envelope system, getting that, crush a snowball effect, all that. But the thing that pissed me off was when he started talking two things. First off, being a former manager of a retail store for the tech department, and him saying in, I think it's like disc 6 or 7, never pay full price. Always ask to talk to the manager because they can give you a discount. You know how many times I had to talk to someone to say, Dave Ramsey told me this? I was like, well, Dave Ramsey's a liar. I don't make any more or less if you buy this. It just drove me bananas. But
Oh
then when
yeah.
he started bashing on the insurance industry after that, I'm like, there's a mix for everything and everyone, but for you to simply say that this canned response is best for everybody, it's just terrible.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's dude, I've got two things on Dave Ramsey. Like number one, debt snowball is incredible. He didn't come up with it. He popularized it. But as far as I know, debt snowball was actually introduced. It was like the 1950s by one of the leaders of the Mormon church
no
that was
kidding.
that was trying to teach. I've got a buddy that did a whole thing on this, Nathan Ivy. Cool dude. If you ever get a chance to connect with Nate. But yeah, it was popular. Like he put that out to the Mormon church, like, hey, Mormon church, debt is slavery. Like debt binds you to Satan. You need out. Check this
Yep.
out. We call it the debt snowball. Dave Ramsey, though, to his credit, popularized it and because what good is it to be smart if nobody knows how to use those smart things, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
kudos, Dave. But then also, yeah, the whole faith-based thing, I always get a chuckle when I think of this because there's this newer cash value life insurance, which Dave is very against.
Hmm.
It's newer cash value life insurance based, or they promote cash value life insurance quite a bit, right? And they claim to be a faith-based organization.
Would they
And
be
they're
Lutheran?
really, really big. They're three letters. They start with I.
Yeah, okay. I thought
I
you were
don't
talking
know
about
how Dave,
Thrive
I don't know how
It.
Dave and GFI are not like in bed right
Yeah,
now. Because,
yeah. I
speaking of
tell
the
you,
faith base, good hell.
I've been, and it's sad because like I'm a Christian, I'll throw it out there, but every time someone leads with that they're a Christian and they want to sell me something, I end up getting fucked over. It's like I just, I feel like anytime someone says, as a Christian, I believe, and I'm like, I'm ready to run the other way. And it's kind of sad to say that, but
I'm like, as an empathetic human being, whether I believe in Jesus or not,
Yep.
I just feel like you probably ought to not screw folks over.
That's pretty much the that's actually part of the message. Don't screw people over, like be
Yeah.
good to people. That's the whole point. But yet some people, like I got hosed out of something earlier this year because someone prayed on that, distinction, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm this and that, and then next thing you know, I'm out of this and that. Sitting here going like, I could sue this person, but they probably don't have the money. And I'm going to just be wasting my time when I could go out and make more money elsewhere. But
Mhm.
it's just, you just sit there and you say, all right, teachable moment, Phil, learn from it, move on. But you still got that little salt, or the chip on the shoulder, whatever you want to say, from just certain things like it just pisses me
Well,
off.
dude, I like a lot of folks. I was born and raised in a Christian household, and my folks are very, very Christian, and I have nothing against it, no qualms, no,
Hmm.
and I don't know. I do believe in Jesus. Like I have some things with the deity side of things, but that's neither here nor there. What I know is people, and I've gotten to know a lot of people. And what
Hmm.
I do find interesting is growing up in a Christian community, a lot of folks would ask themselves, what's the good Christian thing to do? But as I've gotten older and I've reached out into other communities and looked at other things and been on my own search for God or mammon or whatever, right?
Yep.
What I found is when you ask yourself what is the good Christian thing to do, the answer is almost always the exact same as the good Muslim thing to do, and the good Hindu thing to do, and the good like and just the good like not piece of shit human being thing to do. It's all the same.
Yep.
So when we limit ourselves to, well, only Christians could have that belief, what a lie. And who is the father of all lies? So who are you actually following?
Hmm.
Shut the fuck up. Like the idea or construct or thought that only one religious sect, one religious thought process can, produce quality decisions and quality morals. That's the
Hmm.
biggest lie of all. And those that buy into it are buying in, like if you believe that the adversary, Satan, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him, is the father of all lies, then who are you actually believing if you believe that?
It's just really sad because like there are people who will choose not to associate themselves with others because of a different belief from that standpoint. You get political with it too. I mean, it's just like if you stand here with a clenched fist, nothing gets in, nothing gets out. Your opinion is your opinion, and nothing's gonna ever change that. But if you have an open mind and an open, heart, if you will, to whatever, you don't have to convert, but if you respect other people, like I deal in my organization, I deal with a lot of, Eastern Indians, Pakistanis, Muslims, Hindus, and everything. And, been to their temples, and respect everybody from that standpoint. It's not, we're only on this merry-go-round once. And it's too sad to think that people care so much to hate someone else that it's going to impact their day that badly. And we took a course when I worked at American General where this guy came in and he's like, why do you guys get pissed off at someone? Maybe they cut you off on the road. Maybe they did this or that. He's like, you cursing them is like you drinking poison and wishing them to die. Maybe they're on their way to the hospital because someone loved one is hurt and they, probably not the case, but in the simple fact that why are you letting something differs from what you have impact your life so much that you have to go out and ruthlessly hate and hurt other people for that simple reason. There's just common ethics that people seem to forget, and especially nowadays because people can be keyboard warriors, social media warriors, if you will, same thing, but because you're not face to face. Like if you said some of the things that you say online to someone's face, you knock the fuck out. I mean, it's complete bullshit what people can say online and then just get away with it. And I think that's part of the issues, a lot of the issues that we have today is, and I mean, I have the same thing with my kids. They won't put their damn phones down. So, I remember when I was a kid, it'd be go outside and don't come back until, the lights come on. So I'd go play hockey after school from until it got dark, and then I would walk home. But like you have people who get so offended, and I almost think it's really the overabundance of knowledge that we have We're not designed to have the weight of the world's problems on our shoulders. But yet we have access to news of everything that's going on across the world, and it just becomes, anxiety ridden. Like someone's elections in Colombia shouldn't matter to people, but yet they feel obligated to pick a side. And then when that side loses, they get worried or pissed off or scared. And it's like,
Yeah, that wasn't your
what,
burden to carry in the first
yeah,
place.
what impact does that have on your life? But so
Yeah.
many people are so worried about all these different things. And that's why I say ignorance is bliss. Like when COVID hit, my wife and I watched Impractical Jokers every night and just laughed the night away because it's not worth hearing about all that stuff. Yeah, it's important, and I've lost some people to COVID when COVID hit, and COVID hit hard. But the fact of the matter is that you can't just sit there and just be weepy, sorrowful or angry all the time. It just doesn't help.
Yeah.
And you gotta find something you like. Sorry to pontificate.
No, you can pontificate away.
I'm ranting.
So, as a Southern gentleman from the Northeast,
Yep.
what do you think about this whole drone situation? You got some friends or family up there dealing with it, or?
Drone situation. What's going on?
Oh,
I'm kind of
shit.
intrigued. I don't know. I haven't heard
This has been
this.
going on since, like, from what I understand, mid to late November outside of New Jersey.
Really?
There's like
Oh, with
hundreds of drones in the sky every night. And these aren't small, these are like 6 foot freaking drones, hundreds of them. They go up in the morning, they're up all day till like 11 o'clock at night. And then they start going down and all the lights go off so nobody can figure out where they're going. The government, there was some suspicions that like there was this Iranian ship off the East Coast, and the Pentagon came out and said that's not the case, but didn't say what it is. So you've got like the governor in New Jersey that's like, well, can we send some Black Hawk helicopters out after it or Apache helicopters or something? Like we don't have to attack. We just need to know what the hell it is.
that's trippy.
You
I
don't
did
have
not know
anyone in the
that.
Northeast telling you this shit?
No, the only person left in Connecticut is really my brother and my best friend. Or best friends. I have a couple, up there, and but when it comes to this is bad. I'm gonna say it is bad. Like the communication is not quite there. Like if I go back up to Connecticut, I can pick up right where I left off with my best friend. But, from the standpoint of texting every day or saying, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah.
And it's funny because the means of communication, once I had kids, it was like, any type of social aspect went right out the window. And it basically was like work, family. And, thank God most of my family moved down here to Tennessee with me. It's like my parents moved one town south of us, and then my sister and her family of six moved one town down from them. So we have a straight shot of seeing most of the family except for my brother, and he's the kind of guy who likes his fur baby, and tattooed from head to toe. He's a barber, and he does really well at being a barber. But he's got his thing, and we've got our families and stuff like that. My parents moved down not because of me, but because of my kids. They didn't want to miss out on their grandkids. It's not about me, it's about the grandkids. But yeah, I mean, I don't really miss too much about the Northeast. It's fucking cold. I'm built for the North, but I love the South, and when I recap of what I miss about the North, aside from my friends and my brother, would really just be food. I mean, and that's a bad reason to miss a place, but
Right.
best pizza, best bagels, Chinese food is off the hook. Not the real Chinese food, like I can't eat dim sum, the Americanized Chinese food,
Yeah,
but
dude. Walk one, China one.
yeah, yeah, they're all the same.
Oh, dude, I love it.
His
Roll in
best.
for, yeah, for $5, you can get, just a grip of General Tso and some fried rice and a Dr. Pepper.
Amen. Amen. That's all you need. Except recently I've quite thoroughly enjoyed those pork dumplings too. Those
Pork
are
dumplings are.
so
We've
funny.
got Idaho is not known for quality food, especially at, okay.
No
There's a few good things here and there. I've had a finding
burgers.
good Chinese food, but there is this place here, Dee's Kitchen. Joking with some buddies the other day, and
Like,
Dee's Nuts came out, but
yeah,
Dee's
yeah.
Kitchen, and they do these egg rolls, but they're crispy pork egg rolls, and they're probably some of the best I've had in my whole freaking life.
Mm,
The
mm,
rest is
mm,
like
mm.
highly mediocre. It's not bad, and for like here in town, it's good actually. But compared, like I used to live in Vegas, but those, like Vegas aside, it doesn't matter. Those crispy pork egg rolls, holy shit.
But what is the go-to in Idaho Falls? Like what is the
Yeah,
because like you go
Idaho
to Seattle, you got seafood, different things for different places, but
steak and potatoes. Like
that's
we've got our and we've got steakhouses and they do a good job. Like there's Jakers here. They have these steak bites.
yeah.
They like grill up a steak and then it's in like an au jus with mushrooms and all sorts of stuff. Put that on like a little toasted up piece of sourdough and it's pretty damn good. That's tasty. And
Well,
potato everything, but
I was gonna say I saw your post on twice baked potatoes, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, I am a very pro twice baked potato kind of guy. So no shame in the game in eating the twice baked potatoes. So
dude, they're tasty.
it,
They're tasty.
hands down, hands down. It just once you're done with the innards, potato skins all day, every day. It's a magical experience. But yet, my mom would make those for every Christmas, and it was a prime rib and twice baked potatoes. But
I
now,
just did that the other day. That was my first
right?
prime rib at home, and God, man, that was so good. We've been eating it all week, man.
Smoker, oven.
No, it's getting cold here, and I don't do the smoker thing. I don't have the patience. I don't have the. I grill. I grill. I love
Yeah,
grilling.
yeah,
So I was thinking about doing it on the grill, but it's getting cold, and when it gets cold, it's hard to maintain. Like when it starts hitting
the right
10,
temp.
15 degrees, it's really hard to regulate temp.
Yep.
And it was my first time doing a prime rib. I spent like $150 on this thing and was like, okay, I don't want to fuck up this piece of meat. So I just did it in the oven. I did it was bone on, but I had it cut and then tied.
Nice.
I did my own rub. I like to do my own rubs. It was a tasty damn rub. Basics, but it was super super tasty. And yeah, I found a recipe online and just kind of followed the instructions and that was it. The only thing is like I typically prefer when I'm eating like a steak, I prefer a medium. I'm not a medium rare guy, but with that prime rib, you got to pull it at rare.
Yep.
So that next time I'm going to pull it like 125, 128 because I waited
Bloody.
till I think I pulled at it was like 132 and it was a little bit over medium, right? And so I'm
Mm.
like, okay, just got to pull it sooner, let it rest, like rest an extra 10 minutes. And I think but yeah, dude, we did the twice baked. In fact, I didn't even do twice baked. So I just looked up instructions on how to do like a traditional jacket potato in the UK and yeah, jacket potato and baked potato, same thing. But in the
Okay.
UK, supposedly, I'd seen some stuff about how, they just bake them longer. And so I looked up a little thing like baking times and temps and did that. And that skin was just crispy, but inside was so
Oh,
fluffy. And
oh,
oh, some chopped chives on there, sour cream, salt, pepper, butter, cheese. Oh, yeah.
that just sounds truly magical, and especially with the colder temperatures, you get these hearty meals like it's a soup and chili season. But I got really into like how many different like when COVID hit, how many different like food items did you buy for your house? Did you go bananas or did you
No,
stick
we
status
didn't
quo?
have to. We didn't have to. So my wife and I were both born and raised Mormons, and a big thing in Mormonism, we're not at this point, we haven't been for a long time, like half our damn lives, but a big thing in Mormonism, just culturally, is a year's supply. You always have and so
Wow.
when we got married, we just started doing that. Like, and we rotate through it, but every time we
Yep.
go get groceries, we, just dump an extra $20 on non-perishables, on
Hmm.
dried beans and rice and canned goods and this and that and the other. And then you rotate through. When you buy more, like you put that at the back and the stuff that, right?
You stock your shelf.
Yeah. And so when COVID hit, it was like, well, shit, we're fine. We're fine. And like we didn't need to go busted. Everybody was out for toilet paper. And dude, I've been anti-toilet paper for I'm telling you 15 years. There's nothing more gross than toilet paper. Just gonna smear that shit. You wouldn't get poop on your finger, toilet paper it off and go about your day.
Nope.
You wash that dirty butt. And I'm
I'm
telling
I'm
you,
I'm pro bidet too, my friend. It's the best thing ever happened.
bidets
Yep.
and wipes, man. I love a good antibacterial wipe and just I'm telling you, there's very little more confidence inspiring in a man's life. You're about to walk into a sales appointment, have a fresh ass.
Amen.
You're gonna go talk to your pastor, have a fresh ass.
I can see that as the slogan for 2025.
Dude, could you
Have a
imagine
fresh
trying to
ass.
confess you're at the confessional and you got a dirty butt? It's itching a
Have
little
you
bit.
worst? Have you been to Europe? Have you seen the European bidets?
I have not. I have not.
like a giant bowl, and it's a separate toilet. So you have to like crab walk over, dunk, clean, and then crab walk back. It's
Got
the
to do the
weirdest
little
thing.
before you get up off the standard toilet, grab your cheeks and just make
Yep.
sure there's no.
The little truffle shuffle, but in the back,
Yeah,
just
you don't
it's a
want to
trippy
drip a drop.
experience. You
Dude,
ever been across the pond?
I've not been to Europe. I haven't been to Europe. We've been all over, but we've never done Europe. So that's
Really?
I think one of the next on the list. Yeah.
Yeah, so we massaged our way into it by, when I went independent and, had the freedom to actually take time off and not feel guilty about it. We were looking at fall break and so we're kind of a house divided. I think we're getting more towards my side at this point, but I'm a Ravens fan. My youngest son is a Ravens fan. My oldest son and my wife were Titans fans, and they were playing in London. So we actually had a cruise booked for October and then realized the reason why it's dirt cheap is it's hurricane season in the Bahamas. So we pulled the money back and I heard the Ravens were going to play the Titans, and then I saw it was going to be in London. So I looked it up and everything. And I had a lot of Marriott points, so we went for 3 extra days and just made an experience out of it. But it was the first trip, across the pond. I hate flying with a passion, like an absolute passion. But going 8 hours from Nashville to London was actually not really that bad. And so it was our first venture over. And now we got the bug. We've got the bug. We've been to Mexico, Italy, planning a trip next year, knock on plastic, to go to Greece and stuff like that. But it's definitely a cool experience to say the least. But London is a great gateway because they, speak English. And I would have never guessed I wanted to go to London. I want to go back. It was that cool. And they stole everything. Like the British Museum, they stole everything from every country, everywhere. There is something in that British Museum is unbelievable. So highly recommend it. Phil seal of approval. London is a place to go.
Dude, I had a chance to go to London. I was working a deal. It was like back in 2018, 2019 with Lloyd's.
I was gonna say Lloyd's.
Yep, yep. And working it with a group actually out of Florida, big group out of Florida, but had to take a trip down to Lime Street. And I got the invite. I just couldn't make it
Oh,
happen. And I got paid out like crazy on that deal, but I didn't go, and always
like a
kind of
hundred
regretted
million
like
dollar case.
it was a big case. It was a really
Yeah.
big case. Really big case for a very prominent person on the global stage. And it
Oh,
was it was really cool to be a part of. I had so much learning. I got a small frat. I got like 10% was my piece. But that 10% was to this day one of the biggest paychecks I've ever had. And
really?
it was super, super cool. But it was a Lloyd's piece, dude. It was a Lloyd's piece on the life insurance side, which a lot of people don't realize. Like most people know Lloyd's on the property casualty. They'll cover some life insurance exposures, but it's a whole nother freaking, and you worked at AIG, you've got probably a little bit of insight into that. But when you get into these upper echelons,
Yep.
when you get into the investment banking world, and it's a different thing. It's not retail insurance. It's a
Yep.
whole different conversation. Dude, working that is one of the things that just opened my eyes to this whole other world. And it was really, really cool.
Yeah, the private investment place is just like something that intrigues me, but to the extent that do I want to shift my focus and mental knowledge towards something that 99.9% of my field force couldn't handle or do would just, be a disservice to me because I think it'd be cool to learn. I know a lot of people in the private space where you can develop your own surrender schedules, comps, and the whole nine yards. But on the same token, it's just like, taking what is it, the blue pill in the Matrix or
Mm.
so now you pull the cord out and all of a sudden you're like, oh. And so I just get kind of scared with stuff like that right now. I think I'm still a little too new in the ownership to introduce something like that to people that I work with because they would just be like, they would go crazy.
It's hard to go mainstream with it. That's one of the things I've always struggled with is like you can't take it mainstream because most of these people that could otherwise build a good retail career in insurance, regard
Yep.
like auto life, doesn't matter. They could build a
Hmm.
quality career, help a lot of people with it, do a good job. They'll get shiny object syndrome, but they will never actually do all of the work
Nope.
to monetize those things. And frankly, a lot of times they don't have the personality. They don't have the like, how many people do you know? You could probably count them on one or two hands. How many people do you know that are fine sitting there across the table from somebody worth billion plus that are fine? Everybody says they are, but billion plus, or fine, like getting called into a case. You're working a case, you go in to, a capital management firm, and while you're there sitting there, you didn't realize this, but the blind entities on the other side of the case are is half the cast of some of the Avengers films. Or how many people do you know that are going to sit there and not geek out? Instead, they're just going to be like, okay, I'm here to do work and
Yep.
be a professional, or
Yeah.
sit across the table from a sheik, or like, because once you hit that point, that's who you're talking to. You're talking to senators and lobbyists and sheiks and political individuals and from all over the world, celebrities from all over the world. I mean, that's who exists there, and it's a small freaking world.
I know. It's a
It's
trippy experience. Like even in some of the cases that I've done, it's like you sit there and you're like, it's pretty cool, and my kids have gotten to meet people like, Patrick Mahomes, and Tua and people like that. But, in the same token, I don't think I could bring anybody in my organization where they'd probably need that,
ask for a damn
that
signature
was
and
gonna
embarrass the hell out of you.
I
Like,
know.
fuck
Sign
that
here.
signature. That thing is going to be worth $1,800 on eBay 30 years from now.
Yeah,
Leave it
exactly.
alone. We're working a case. It's going to pay you $1 million. You
Exactly.
just have to not be a
Exactly.
freaking nerd.
You just shut the fuck up.
But yeah, that's the
It's
thing. And then beyond that, it's one thing to sit at the table, cool, calm, and collected. It's another thing to have done the work to bring value to that table. And then it's a whole nother
mhm.
thing above and beyond all of that to not make, like, this is the one. To not make those people feel like you're gawking, feel like
Yep.
you want to make them feel like, because like you show up at the table with some of these folks, you want them to feel like it's cool if they show up and go back to gym shorts. Hey, it's fine. Be
Yep.
here in gym shorts, flip, like, we're here to do business. What you're wearing, people think that to get into the big money world, you got to wine and dine. In fact,
The rollies.
what I found, they appreciate, like, they would rather, like, yeah, if you want to buy me lunch, that's cool, but just get PF Chang's and order it into your office so we can get this done, because I don't want to go spend 3 hours. I just needed to come and tell you that I didn't have rickets and sign some
Yep.
papers in person. So just like, if you want to buy me lunch, cool, I appreciate it. Just get, ordering some Subway. The biggest deals I've done have been, everyone's like, oh no, it's on Trump and Pelican. And no, the only times I've been on Trump and Pelican was with those same clients who had a membership, and we didn't even golf. We just sipped bourbon and drove around and hid in the bushes and caw at all the other people golfing. And it's usually realtors. It's usually a realtor out there trying to get a deal.
Of course.
I'm
So
just saying.
so so it'd look awkward if you were like this to the other side of the table.
Yeah, yeah. Or if you start sliding, like, little Jimmy sent his hat with me, would you sign it for him? Like, if you would just, these people don't get it. If you would just not do that, the likelihood that, like, next time they're in town, they're like, hey, I'm in town. Can I stop by? Like,
Yeah.
actually, guest bed's
Get their
open.
cell
You
number.
like,
It's all of a sudden, what's the old phrase? Your network is your net worth.
yeah.
Like simple and easy.
There is an elite class that wants the bow tie experience all the time, and those aren't my clients. And there are a lot more people with money who don't want that, who just want to live a normal life. So
Yep.
like, if you look at all the people with money, there's like 10% of those that want to be considered elite. 90%
hmm
of them just wish they had their friends back because their friends
Yep.
got fucking weird the minute they got money.
Yep. That's the scary part, but so getting into this industry, getting into the independent side versus actually being part of an organization has been very liberating. But in the same token, people do look at you differently out of nowhere, either family members or stuff. I was talking to my wife about this yesterday. So we just put a new patio on the back of our house because our patio was being destroyed. It was eroding and everything. And, we're going to do it the right way. It's nice. And so we got a message from someone saying that they want something. And it wasn't even like, hey, how have you been? It was just, hey, I need this. It's like, and we were being advised that, we put that stigma out there because, I bought a car. We bought, this patio and stuff like that. And I was like, it's stuff that you need, yeah, you get a little obsessive with certain things, but the fact of the matter is I'm still the same person. And I'd love to have my friends be the same, but it is weird when some people just don't, I don't want to say mature up, but they look at you differently because some things have happened, for the better. And it's actually kind of sad, in my opinion.
It is. But I found again, there is certainly that elite class, but they're not the ones I'm fucking with. And more out of all the people, again, like we talked, of all the people with money, the
Mhm.
elite class is like this. The vast majority are like, no, I still don't like drinking Stellas. They taste like piss. I want a natty light. Like, I want a natty light,
Oh,
you
the good
know?
old college days.
Dude, like it's crazy, whether it's $10, $20, 200,000, a million, two
Mhm.
million, 200 million, like
It's just zeros.
it doesn't change your freaking taste buds.
Yeah.
If you like chicken wonton tacos at Applebee's, you still like chicken wonton tacos at Applebee's.
And that's funny you say that because I had a lady, she was our microeconomics teacher. I think she was macro too. So whichever one this correlates to, but she's talking about affluence and things changing. She's like, Phil, you like hot dogs and hamburgers, right? And I was like, hell yeah, college kid. And then she's like, okay, well, if you had a lot of money, I'm sure your needs would change. You probably would like steak and shrimp and stuff. I was like, no, I'd still eat hot dogs and hamburgers. I mean, they still taste good to me. It's like, why all of a sudden do you have to look down on something or someone if, the things have changed?
Oh, dude,
And I think that's sad.
love or hate Trump. That's one of the things I actually love about him. And there's things I
Mhm.
don't like about him, but this is a dude that's had all the money in the world. Not all the money, but he's had a lot of money for a long, 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 long time, his whole life. And he
Yep.
still appreciates a good hamburger. Now, Mickey D's.
Maybe,
So
maybe you should go to Burger King, but
Donald, listen, if you're listening, you're not, but if you were, get that flame grilled burger.
BK Lounge,
Oh
baby.
shit. Yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. Like
Everybody
I don't
calls
get it.
McDonald's the Mick office, because you can get the Wi-Fi, the Mick office.
Yep. Yep. I
Burger
didn't think
King is the
about
back
that.
office. So
I just go to Starbucks. I'm the guy who gets the coffee and sits in the
I
Starbucks.
can't do Starbucks. I fucking hate Starbucks.
Well, I do too, but they're everywhere. I've had more meetings, so like a lot of my agents are in Texas. So when I go to Texas, I can go with no agenda and just say, "Hey, I'll be in Texas for a week." And I'm in a Starbucks 3 to 4 times a day. And it's just like, how many times are you gonna drink a latte?
Dude,
Everything.
back when I
Awful.
my first agency I launched, I was doing like 40, 50,000 miles a year. It
Hmm.
was based out of Southern Utah, and I was driving to Salt Lake City, Las Vegas, Scottsdale, Arizona, just all over, all the time. And we'd meet up, and people would be like, "Oh, you want to meet at Starbucks?" And I'm telling you, Phil, you got to come at them with this. You're like, "Nah, I'm not about that shit. Meet me at Denny's."
Oh gosh.
The
Moon's over
same.
Miami.
Dude, you get some shitty diner coffee, some moons over my hammy, and free Wi-Fi. We can do everything we need to do at Denny's,
Hmm.
and somehow it's still better than fucking Starbucks.
It'd be the same price, for that one coffee,
Oh man,
I
I
know
had so
that.
many Denny's appointments back in those days. Holy crap!
You walk into a Denny's, someone hands you a paper, and you're coming in for your meetings.
Setting up my laptop and
Yep, that was great. That was great.
zero
There's
issue.
no Denny's around here. There's no
I think
Denny's.
Denny's is a dying breed.
Not in
Our Denny's shut
Vegas.
down here. It's gone. They closed
I
it out. So
I was in the Vegas. I was at the Park MGM last week. Yeah, last week
there's
for
still
one
that
day.
Denny's down there on the strip.
Straight there. I was walking through because I woke up. So I was in Dallas for a couple days. I was working this one agent who he asked me to come down, and I was going to Vegas anyway for a meeting, but he asked me to come to Dallas because we're working with a kid who just signed with Texas A&M. And so I went and saw his contract signing. And then the next morning, my flight was we'll say I had to wake up at 3:30 Pacific time AM, fly out, get to Lost Wages and land, go to the Park MGM. Obviously my room's not ready. It's like 10 Pacific at this point. And I look across, I walk through, looking at the restaurants. $30 for a breakfast sandwich and a
Yeah.
coffee. And I look across the street and it's just like, it's Denny's. So I like book it. It's just up, down, and in there. And they're like, how many in your party? Because there's like a huge line. It was like one. Like, come this way. I was like, yes. And for $11, I got two pancakes, two sausage, two bacon, and two eggs. It was like the traditional, what we had up in Connecticut was a place called Friendly's, and they call it the 222. Same
Mhm.
thing, pretty much, but another two. And it was just magical. And I sat there, I'm like, this is like the best deal that you can get on the strip. Period, hands down, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The rest of the place is way overpriced.
On the strip, yeah. And anybody that's ever lived in Vegas knows you like if you live in Vegas, you never go to the strip.
It's for
You
suckers,
might
right?
go there, yeah, you might go for a special occasion because people are flying into town. But dude, I think to this day, the best breakfast in the Vegas area is like Village Pub, which is kind of a chain. Pick any of them.
Okay,
I mean,
okay,
you can hop in an Uber and a mile off the strip, you're at a Village Pub. They're all over. Fucking
okay.
phenomenal breakfast. Steak and eggs, like they're phenomenal.
Hmm.
And then if you'll go out to Boulder City, the Coffee Cup. Holy shit. It's the best. It's the best breakfast in the Vegas area, in my opinion.
Sad
There's
part.
some other really, really good spots too. Babies is a good spot. I mean, there's some good stuff there. But yeah, screw the strip, man.
I'm gonna hit you up next time I go because like
Dude, when we do events there, we don't even do them on the strip. Everyone's doing their
really,
events at, like park and
really,
no,
what?
we'll do a resort, but we'll do like the M Resort or Green Valley or which is out in Henderson, but we're talking like 10 minutes from the airport, 15 minutes from the strip, and now you don't have all the fucking crazies. You have all the Vegas you want, none of it you don't. And so yeah, we're
Well,
looking at an event this fall. We'll probably do the M if we can get a contract with the M. We've done them before there and love the M. It
yeah.
was phenomenal. So
Well, if you need a subpar speaker, no, I'm just kidding. Let me know when these.
if you're gonna have me out in Dallas and pay my way to be there, then I might as well have you out to Vegas and pay your way to be there. So
Curtsy, curtsy. Yeah,
little quid
one
pro quo. I
I
mean,
love it. I love it. I love it. I was gonna say one of the funny things about Vegas though is the chips. So I
mhm.
bought, chips and just because I like hearing the clanking of them. And so being out in Vegas, did you ever do the gambling or did you stay away from it with
I'm
the
not a big gambler. No, in fact,
no?
like I don't, but I'm not a big game player. I don't, it's hard for me to sit down and play Monopoly with the family. I just don't like it.
Really?
So I would rather grab a drink and go. I'll go sit down in like the sports betting area because
Yeah.
you don't have to be actively engaged. And I'll just find some new person to just talk to. I just like talking. I don't love people, but I like just talking to people and just meeting random people doing random things. So I don't. Yeah, when we go, one of the businesses I own, we do quarterly meetups and they're in Vegas pretty much every quarter. And they'll go play games and I'll just go sit in the sports betting area and just fucking talk. And sometimes my partners will come back over and hang out and sometimes they leave.
Interesting.
And I don't make it to every quarterly meetup. I'm a small partner, but yeah, I don't love gambling. It's never been a thing for me. But I also don't love board games. You can put
That's
Sorry or
amazing.
Trouble, Skip Bo. I don't give a fuck. It sounds boring.
Now you're throwing cards in there too? Those
I,
weren't board games.
those card games, it's all the same shit. Like
They all
I
suck.
just want to sip some whiskey and be able to have a conversation without having to worry about losing my money.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah. Fair point. No video games, nothing like that.
Don't play video games. We don't have video games at the house.
Wow.
Well, I will say so. We bought because we're in Idaho and it gets cold in the winter. So our
Hmm.
basement area we turned into like a little arcade. So we've got like 2x2, the basketball hoops, and there's like
Yep.
10 basketballs in there. And we bought it's like a Pac-Man machine, but there's like 140 games on there.
I've seen those.
And you can put it online and go download more games and all sorts of shit. But so we have that, for the winter when it's minus 30 and you don't want to go outside. And the boys love that, but my boys don't play that all the time. They would rather go outside and play baseball or read a
Oh,
book
that's awesome.
or draw or drive their RC. We're getting into RC cars now, the 18th scale. And dude, RC cars
Like
these days,
off-road RC cars?
yeah, they're off-road, they're all electric. These all electric RC cars now are faster. You remember when we were growing up, they started coming out with the nitro gas-powered RC cars. These
Yep.
things are faster. Oh, dude, it's crazy. And you buy parts, you're changing tie rod ends, you're
What?
upgrading the shocks, yeah,
What?
you're setting
On
compression and
RC
rebound on the
cars?
shocks. Oh, dude, it's freaking
Gosh.
hilarious. My boys love them. So we'll go outside and do that. And I built them a ramp. They'll jump their RC cars. We'll go ride dirt bikes and AT. Like that's what we like to do. So yeah, we just don't do the video game thing. We don't do and maybe that's what it is about Vegas. I mean,
I'm actually quite impressed by that because it seems like my kids can't socialize unless they play Fortnite. And I'm sitting here like, Fortnite is just like the bane of my existence. I can't, because I grew up playing video games and first person
Yeah.
shooters, and they constantly change maps. They constantly keep you sucked in that you just don't get off the merry-go-round. But it's like, I remember growing up, and if you didn't watch Seinfeld on Thursdays, you were
Oh,
out of the
love
loop for the
Seinfeld.
rest of the rest of the week until next Thursday. So it's almost like this social aspect that you can't not play it. And I've restricted it. I've said no, and then some other obsession comes up and I sit here, I'm like, does everyone here play, fucking video games? Is there like, no, hey, let's meet up at this park and play baseball, kickball, or hockey? I remember going and meeting up with a bunch of kids at the local high school and just dominating the tennis courts with street hockey. We just put shoes down, and those were the goals. Everyone would get on their blades, and we would just spend the whole day, just playing hockey. And like my kids will go outside, they'll throw a football for 10 minutes and be like, I'm done. And I was just like, oh, it just
I
baffles my mind.
I didn't grow up with video games. There was one point where I grew up in the auto repair industry. That was my first two businesses actually, and my old
No
man had an
kidding.
auto shop, and somebody couldn't pay their bill, and so they gave him, I think it was a Super Nintendo. So we had like Tetris and Donkey Kong
Yep.
and Super Metroid, something like that.
Sounds
Those were
about
the three
right.
games we had. We never bought more games. We like that's what we had. And
Wow.
like once a month, my mom would be like, "Hey, you guys can play, for half an hour each, and then take turns, and then once you've all had half an hour, get the fuck outside, like go outside and play."
Wow.
And that was us growing
Wow.
up. And so we just kind of carried that over, and it's good. My boys don't ask. They don't ask, but like when my boys want to socialize, they're like, "Hey, can we go to the library?" Oh, dude, my 8-year-old, I went home the other day. This was literally just like last week. I went home. Camille's like, "Do you know what your 8-year-old did?" I'm like, "What?" She's like, "He cornered, it was like toddler time, and he cornered
Mhm.
like, two or three toddler, like 4-year-olds. And he was explaining to them how we just had the election and the red states wanted Trump, but the blue states wanted Kamala or however the fuck,
Potato, potato.
right? And I was like, where was he going with that? And she's like, I don't know. That's it. He just wanted them to understand that the red was for Trump and the blue was for Kamala. Like, and I'm like, well, fuck. But like that's what we do for fun, man. We try and do
That's
real shit.
impressive. That's impressive. I'm gonna say if I thought you were gonna say he cornered these kids and started explaining the difference between term insurance and permanent
He
insurance.
might he might have, dude. So my older boy, he's 10 now. This would have been like 20, I think it was 2020. It would have been right around Thanksgiving of 2020 because I remember like the whole pandemic shit was there, and he came down to my office with me like the day before Thanksgiving. I had a whole bunch of work to do, and
Yep.
Camille was just tired of him. So he came down. We're in my little office, and all my teams out there running like crazy doing their shit. So I was like, okay, you got to be in here, but you got to be quiet because I got shit to do. So I set up this folding table for him. He was like, Dad, I want to write a life insurance policy. And I was like, what? And he's like, I can do it. I had no idea where he was going. He's like, do you have one? So I literally had, you remember the packets before they did e-delivery? You probably have some right now. I handed him a packet. I was like, there you go, bud. And here's a pen and some paper. And he just started copying word for word, like just page by page. He did like 15 pages, word for word,
Wow.
writing a life insurance policy.
Good for him. Good for him. I was said, son, you got to get licensed first.
Oh, dude, it was all the disclaimer shit. There was no HIPAA compliant or Privacy Act information in there. So the listeners know.
Sure,
Fuck you.
sure. Phil
Yeah, I'm a
Resch, socials.
Phil Resch had scurvy.
It's,
He's got
uh,
herpes. He didn't contact any of his exes.
yeah. Well, you know what? That's on them to find out. Who am I to judge, right? We all learn our different ways.
Oh, dude,
I
it was
tell
so
you,
fun.
I tell
So
you,
fun.
what's interesting? Speaking of insurance, I've been doing it now for 18 years, and I'm a hypochondriac. So throughout my life, I've thought I've had SARS, mesothelioma, various cancers, heart issues, the whole nine yards. And every time I see a case, and they're like, "Oh yeah, client had to go to ER because they had shoulder pain." Found out it was bone marrow cancer, and I'm sitting here going like, oh, it's not
Bone
the
marrow cancer.
yeah, it's not the 34 years of hockey, catching up to me. It's bone marrow cancer, and I find it kind of ironic that I've made such a living off of this industry, also being such a tremendously piss poor hypochondriac, and just watching all these ailments come by.
Dude, I can see you getting all anxious at like 2 a.m. watching late night TV, and they're like, "Did your vaginal mesh come loose?" And you're like, "I didn't even
Yes.
know I had a vagina, but I think it might have."
How'd you know? Get out of my mind.
It's a
It's so
class
scary.
action. I think I ought to join. I should at
Yeah,
least apply.
what's that number?
Yeah.
I tell you, it is
Text
trippy thing.
772.
I could see that happening. I could definitely see that happening at 2 in the morning, looking at those commercials and just saying, my parents called me a salesperson's dream because like I would watch infomercials at home, like the set it and forget it. And it was that the rotating chicken thing.
Oh yeah, and
And
you can get
like,
like a copper spatula if you order now.
oh yeah, I want that copper spatula. And those like those smoothie makers, you just yeah, I don't want to,
Dude,
but
the juicers.
yep, all of them.
Um,
All of them. It's like, oh, you could turn this into pulp and then you could put the pulp in this and then make it. And I'm like, that's amazing. Mom, we need this thing. And she's
Look at
like,
the
oh my
health
gosh.
benefits. It
Yeah,
won't just
yeah.
juice cucumber, it'll juice a ham bone.
We need it now. It's so
Hurry, we only have
bad.
12 mintes to order. If we get it, we're going to get a free garden hose.
Well, the funny thing too is like Amazon now, they'll say we only have 5 left. And you're like, oh, I gotta get it. And my dad was looking at a laptop for Christmas and he literally so we were talking and he's like, because the tech guy, how's this one look? Looks great. I was like, but you better act fast. There's only 5 left. He's like, I watched this for a week. They've had 5 left for a week. I was like,
Oh, dude.
oh,
Amazon
tricky.
has gone Billy Mays. It
Yeah.
has gone Billy
Oh,
Mays.
may he rest
It's
in
like you've
peace.
got 5 left. And by the way,
Hmm?
I know you were looking at brake pads, but we want to talk about absorption. You make a mess on your counter, grab a brake pad. Holy shit, look at how it comes up.
Bounty.
It's like a Flex Seal commercial.
I want to try that boat that he cut
Oh,
in half.
dude. I thought I saw a thing like an actual news station, or not a news, it was like a Dateline or a Mythbusters or something. They did it and it actually worked. I mean, it started leaking after a while on the lake, but it
Sure.
wasn't, it wasn't leaking right off the bat. So
Yeah, the major infomercial ones like the Flex Seal, and remember the dude who got beat up by a prostitute? He did the slap chop and sham wow. You don't
ShamWow was
remember?
Billy Mays, right?
No, no, Billy Mays like screamed into the like Billy Mays here, blah blah blah, and he would just go on. This ShamWow guy had like a microphone there, smaller, skinnier guy, and he's talking about the ShamWow, and then all of a sudden he comes out with this like slap chop thing, and then next thing you know, there's a picture of him like a big fat lip, he got his ass kicked by a prostitute.
Some prostitute slap chopped him.
Yeah, so yeah, he was out of it. Billy Mays, like I say, may he rest in peace. He was probably one of the best ones. Didn't he do? I think he did OxyClean, if I recall
He did
correctly.
OxyClean for sure. He's like,
Yep,
holy shit, look at that. The bubbles did the bubble. And they lift it right out.
yep, yep.
Dude, Slap Chop is actually one we bought. We didn't buy it off an infomercial. We probably grabbed it from a as seen on TV section out of Walmart or something.
CVS or Walgreens or one of
Dude,
those places.
fucking that thing, I don't think we even still have it, but man, we used the shit out of that. That was a
It
handy,
worked.
that thing worked like crazy.
Really?
Now that I'm
I
thinking about it, I should get another one because it is soup season.
you're welcome. I'll put it that way. You're welcome. And for anybody
Like you drop
listening,
3 grand on Cutco and you forget about a $15 slap chop.
did you ever buy the Cutco knives?
Oh, dude, we've got Cutco, and I do it again and again. That's one
Really?
thing I would do
Wow.
because I bought in Kershaw sets, which Kershaw is a badass brand.
Yep.
We bought in Sabers. We've had some high dollar shit, and they break, they chip, they this, they that. And dude, I'm telling you, like Cutco's where you buy Cutco once, it's a lifetime investment. You never buy knives again. Like I
Wow.
probably spent 3-4 grand on my Cutco stuff, but I
Huh.
probably spent 3 or 4 grand on the 5 other things that I had. And
Is Cutco an MLM?
they have an MLM. We didn't buy it. I bought mine off the website. I was like, no way am I having some 18-year-old come in and
Chop a tomato in a rusty pipe?
yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Chop a tomato in a
Don't-
rusty pipe, try and fuck my wife. Stop it.
It just spirals from there.
Yeah,
Getting your
it
rusty
gets
pipes in here.
crazy. So I just got on the website and was like, oh, that sounds good. We'll have one of those too.
Wow. That's actually quite impressive because
I fucking love
I've
Cutco, dude. And if anything's
really
ever wrong,
wow.
or like if you can't get them sharpened, they give you a sharpener. If the sharpener wears out, send it in. They send another one out. If the sharpener is not working, like you can literally send your knife back to them. And if they don't have the same one, they just send
Yeah.
you the like next model forward. No cost. It is literally lifetime. And like, dude, I love my Kershaws. Kershaws, for those that, so I'm a knife enthusiast. I collect like Benchmade.
Oh,
I've
yeah,
got thousands of dollars worth of Benchmades. Come break into my house. I'll
really.
put one in your neck. Anyways, but I'm a knife enthusiast. Kershaw is a really, really good brand. And we loved our Kershaw set, but after like 4 or 5 years, it was worthless. And supposedly you can warranty, but the warranty process, it was fucking like you basically had to like get in your car, drive to the home office. And I was like, holy shit. And that's actually getting out of those is when I was like, fuck it, I'm getting Cutco's. And
Wow.
dude,
See, everyone has a specific thing that they will not overpay, but make sure that it
indulge. Yeah.
is up to the standard. And like for me, it was never nice. Like we went from IKEA to it was my 5 year anniversary with AIG, and I went through and looked through the book, and I was like, oh shit, they got knives. So I think they're like Oneida or Onita, whatever
Yeah.
knives. And, you know, they're fine. They cut steaks perfectly. They cut vegetables. So it's like I didn't pay for them. But being the tech junkie that I am, you know, I will be very extra precautious and safe with, you know, anything technology based. But if it's like except for my phone, I don't believe in cases. That's all I gotta say. You
Mhm.
know, it's thin for a reason. Everyone wants a thin phone. Why are you gonna throw this big ass OtterBox on it? You know? So, but aside from that, like everyone has their enthusiasts of things. I'm not a big car guy. So like my cars are always nasty and I don't get it. Some people are very particular about certain things. I guess for me it's just technology and you know, good looks. That's my
You're
cross.
buff. You got to have a bidet.
So yes, keep that ass clean.
Yeah, dude. It's confidence inspiring, man.
Absolutely. I mean, that just tells you, you know, that people, you know, smart people share same common interests. That's why I say we're smart people today.
Dude,
So
I'm gonna have to send you a damn Cutco knife now. I'm gonna have to buy you one and just ship it out.
I'm kind of intrigued. Not enough where I'm going to buy a Cutco knife, but I am intrigued. You
I
know,
might,
I will look them up now because now I'm like, I kind of want to cut a rusty pipe and then cut a tomato or a pineapple after.
or like just cut the tomato and pineapple. Why do you gotta go like? Why do you gotta flex?
Because that's what it's meant to do. That's their value proposition is it can cut through a rusty tomato, a rusty pipe, and then cut through a tomato. It's their motto.
They do, but what I'm saying is you don't have to. Like just because you have a big dick doesn't mean you have to flash everyone that walks by.
That's why I don't.
So why cut the rusty pipe? God
I digress.
talking in circles here. Dude, so talk to me. I mean, we've been going for a couple hours now, and I haven't even asked you about any of this shit. Talk to me about how Phil decided insurance was going to be the thing because there was no way you woke up and you were like, well, that's going to be sexy and that will make me so attractive to my partner, right? Like there
Yep.
was a whole thing. How did you decide to get into it? I'm going to make me another drink real quick. I don't know if you noticed. I've been sipping whiskey. You've been having water.
I know I'm actually kind of jealous because you're making me thirsty and I'm not ready to go into the whiskey yet. Yet. But
I am. I'm
yeah.
gonna make another drink, but yeah, start going on that. I'll be like 30 seconds. We're just gonna keep rolling unless you need a
Yeah.
break. You need a
I don't
pee?
need a break.
You don't need a tinkle?
I'm like a camel. I can keep going, baby.
All right, man. So how did you tell everybody how you decided insurance? Because you didn't just like open
Insurance.
an agency. You got with the 800-pound gorilla in the room and started a career there before. Like I want to hear the whole thing.
All right. Well, in the beginning, so when I first started, actually in college, when I was in college, I worked at Circuit City, as I mentioned, and I worked down in Baltimore as a tech manager after I graduated. And my wife was still in school, so I did that for about a year and loved it. Just loved talking with people. But my sister was about to have her second kid, and I didn't want to be that uncle who was far away from family. So moved back home, found a job opening up a tech department in Connecticut, and so shifted from Baltimore to Connecticut. And you know, halfway through the year, I just got tired of the retail stuff. So with retail, you got your Black Fridays, you know, your Labor Days, where everyone's having off, you're sitting there working, and it just got tiring. I got tired of hearing people fight over $200 laptops. And while it's, you know, the most wonderful time of the year is singing, you know, above you, people are just fighting in front of you. So it kind of tainted the mood. So called up my buddy in Connecticut, and Connecticut used to be the insurance capital of the country. And I said, "Hey, do you have any jobs available at Life?" And so he said, "Well, do you know what an annuity is?" And I said, "No." And he says, "Perfect, then you're hired." And I started working in the call center at Life where people had their 403Bs, their 401Ks, just regular annuities and things like that. And just got to see an interesting side of the insurance industry, just answering calls all day. So a year in, you have to put your year in before you're allowed to get a different job inside of MetLife. And about 2 months in, or 2 weeks left before my year was up, I applied for a wholesaler role, which I thought was annuity wholesaler role. It was a life wholesaler role. I interviewed with 5 people, finished that, thought I didn't get the job, and I went back down to my desk, wrote a thank you note to all of them saying thank you for the time. Here's what I learned, blah, blah, blah. And they said, "Who's your manager?" I gave my manager's name, and then I found out I got the job. Put my 2 weeks in for the call center, and then next week I was moving up to the 35th floor in Hartford, Connecticut. About a year in, 2008 hits, job freezes, everything. I was working with financial advisors as an internal wholesaler, and I got to cover a lot of cool territories. So I covered the Pac Northwest, so Oregon, Washington, Alaska. I covered Texas was my first territory, Iowa, and then I got to work with the best external wholesaler in Tennessee. He covered Tennessee, Kentucky, and the other side, like parts of Arkansas and Mississippi. And he taught me a lot, like a lot. When you are selling whole life, when GULs are famous and popular, you got to learn stories. You don't learn product. And
Yeah.
so we were constantly competing against like Lincoln and the Hartford and their products being GULs and stuff like that. So we were telling the alternatives of non-correlated market assets. But I thought I was going to stay at MetLife forever. And MetLife was like, "You know what? We're going to move to Charlotte." And my wife and I just didn't feel called to do that. I was at that point
Which is a
a
nice way of
lead.
saying fuck Charlotte.
And what's crazy is I actually, have been to Charlotte since and I like it. But when we were looking at it, it was like where we could afford to live. There
Yeah.
were gun shops, pawn shops, liquor stores, fried chicken joints, and it just didn't seem like the right place for us to raise a 5 and a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
So, my wife was an underwriter and so she lost her job. I lost my job. They gave us 6 months to find a new job as they closed down Hartford. And, December 23rd, day after my birthday, I got an offer from AIG to move my whole family down to Tennessee, basically absorb my wife's salary and my salary and gave me a better position so my wife could take care of the kids. I could go do my thing. And I was a multi-carrier specialist for their career force. So when they couldn't sell their proprietary product, they'd come to my team. We'd sell them to everybody under the sun. 2 years in, they fire them all or promote them to become independents, however you want to say it, because basically they had a lot of overhead and not a lot of people selling insurance. So it just didn't make sense. And so they moved me to a director position, managed 20 plus internal wholesalers, but just got tired of babysitting people who, would call out on a Friday because they want to start their weekend early or call out Monday because they partied too hard during the weekend.
Yeah.
And I applied for a position on the independent channel as a regional vice president. And so I got the position. I covered Texas to the Carolinas and South, and it was a great gig. I loved everyone who I worked with. On my wall over here, I got an RVP of the Year award and stuff like that. And it's a gold record because it was in Nashville. And I loved it. But the funny thing was is that I started because COVID hit and I decided for my territory I was going to host webinars. And like all these other RVPs just had no idea how to do webinars. Like they were a little old and they focus on the handshakes and the steak dinners. But I did a lot of teaching, training, and coaching for multi-level marketing groups, for MGAs, like smaller groups and stuff like that like the career feel but had the independent focus. And I would get 200 to 400 people on my webinars every Wednesday. I would do one at noon and one at like 8 p.m. because of the part-timers, full-timers, whatever. And I did a presentation one time. I dusted off the old sales ideas I use with financial advisors, and I talked about irrevocable life insurance trusts. And I used the presentation that my old wholesaler did. And that year when he did it, it was the year when they took the 5 million your gift exemption amount. They raised it from 1 million to 5 million to match. And so we went hog wild that year and made some big sales. So I was like, screw it. Let's dust it off and see what happens. And I got a guy who called me up, said, Phil, I got a guy who fits this. I was like, okay. So I did the point of sale, much like we're talking right now. Let's say you were the customer face forward. And then on the two sides, you had a CPA and you had the advisor or the agent. But I thought they were all just agents. I was talking to all of them as agents. Guys like I like it wrote a $42.5 million case, used up retention with three different or four different reinsurers to get it all. And agent made 7 figures and I made 5 grand. And I said, wait a minute. I did all this work and I made 5 grand, because of the BIPs, your territory. I had a $37 million territory goal to hit. And so the epiphany started to hit as to, well, why am I not doing this for myself? And it really kind of connected when I was, COVID is over, we could travel again. And I went down to Atlanta, and one of my agencies, now one of my business partners, he sat next to me. He was here. His son was here. We were at a Braves game. And he's like, Phil, what would it take for you to come work with me? Like, he answered a prayer. It was like, I've been thinking about this for a year. Is it time? Should I do this and that? And I was like, well, if I had X, Y, and Z, then I could make this happen because no one wants to make a bad decision out of desperation. And so he gave me the vehicle and the opportunity to make a right decision and then went into Creative Valor. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, I was like, all right, what do you do? Because I used to hate the marketing team because they would always say the same thing, marketing's so important, this and that. And then I would do, and I'm sitting here going like, all right, now I got to develop business plans and all this other stuff. And it was funny because like the first 2 months, I'm sitting here going like, I need to do something. I just don't know what to do. And out of nowhere, I just started marketing on Facebook, marketing on social media. Some people would come to me and saying, hey, Phil, I'd love to work with you. And I was like, well, cool, let's roll, because I wasn't allowed to reach out because I had a very prominent position. But people were coming to me saying they wanted to work with me. And I ended up talking to a guy who had another high net worth client and he had some insurance already in place. But we ended up covering. So we pre-shopped him, got 200 million ready to go, split among 11 carriers. Client took 100 million out of the 200 million. This agent made another 7 figures, and I'll just say I did a lot better than 5 grand. So I knew I was on the right path. But the big thing for me, and I think this is the problem with our industry, is when you get into our industry, you don't know where to stop. So when you have someone who can only sell life insurance and annuities, all they're going to do is say that everything that you need is going to be in this category because that's all I can sell. Right. And so it makes bad decisions, it makes stupid decisions. And now all of a sudden you have people hating the insurance industry because you have some moron saying an index universal life should replace an S&P 500, account. And so I said to myself, I'm 40. I was 41. Now I'm 40. I'll be 43 in 9 days. So, I sit here and I say to myself, I want to be in this industry for another 40 plus years, as long as the Lord has me here. And I want to leave an impact. I want to be like the guys who I remember that Phil Resch guy when he did X, Y, and Z. So my goal is to create more of a holistic approach to the sales process. Life insurance, annuities, sure. DI, long-term care, those are things that people don't talk about, but are widely needed in the insurance industry. We can sell 401ks, so focusing on business owners without having to get FINRA licenses. Silos. So Silo 2 would be Affordable Care Act and Medicare. For those who want to sell it, I have contracts and I tell people, I'm like, you're not going to catch me dead standing in a Walmart for 3 months out of the year. But I will gladly support someone who has that approach, that grind and that hustle to help people with the ACA stuff, I will help them 100, 1000%. But then I said to myself, I'm like, you're still in that dancing in that insurance realm. So added one of my partners is a different organization that does private equity, hard money lending backed by real estate. And I was like, it's solid enough to say that we have vehicles that fit the three buckets we always talk about: tax now, tax later, tax never. So alternative investing for short term, tax now vehicle, tax later your 401ks, and tax never your LERPs. So you retire the way you want to. And I create this wonderland of opportunity that allows people to really scale, holistically help. But then, much like you have your referral partners, I'm building out referral partners across, like an RIA who I'm friends with. I've got, payroll company. I've got, some others, because I don't want to be just the greasy insurance guy. I want to be the center of influence. And I think people oftentimes are finding that they're going to fight the insurance guy, whether you talk to a CPA, whether you talk to an FA, RIA, whoever. They feel like there's this constant fight with the insurance guy because he's stealing the money from our assets under management or this or that, when they should understand that we work in concert with them. And so I want to shift the dynamic of what was to what it should be.
But that's
And
only when insurance agents work in concert with them, right? And I'm all on your side. Literally just today, actually submitted a case. It's a nice. Is it the biggest one I've ever done? No, but we're talking 80,000 a year, 7 pay.
great day.
And how do we get this case? Well, we fought for that money, which, by the way, that 80,000 is a fraction of the client sold his business and got millions of dollars, or is getting millions over the next 7 years in structured payments. And annually, like, this is less than 20%. But we had to fight with financial advisors. We had to fight with his CFPs and over this, because they are so anti, because the base of the insurance industry has put it all here. And we had to fight every step of the way on all of this. Literally, how many times do you have a client come to you and is like, hey, what are the guarantees in the contract? It's like, well, your financial advisor told you to do that, but let me make you a Loom video and send it to you so you can send it to that jerk off too.
Exactly.
But regardless, we won the case and we're doing well. But we did that, like you say, in concert with and the initially, we've been going back and forth for a few months on this case, by the way.
Yep.
And initially, it was him asking questions, and you could tell he was coached, and the coaching was to disprove our modalities and shift even more of that money back to, frankly, AUM, which he's already putting a bunch into AUM. Nothing wrong with, but hey, time and a place and in balance on a good portfolio. So, once we were able to come back and I say once I was able to come back and again answer those questions and provide this documentation and that, not superfluous sales shit.
Yep.
Like here's the documentation. Here it is on the paper. Here's
cold hard facts.
Here's the cold hard. Here's probably what it's going to do. Here's what it could do, but probably not. Here's what your guarantee's at, and here's what it's probably going to do, and here's why it's probably going to do it. And as soon as we did that, all of a sudden CFP wants to be on the call. All of a sudden, and we start. But now, so a lot of agents in the business are like, well, how do you have 100% persistency? And it's not always. I've had a few cancellations here and there over the decade plus I've been in the business. Not many, but a few. I've had some my biggest, persistency issues were clients dying in the first year. And those were my biggest ones, but we worked through them, and I'm glad that benefit was there to take care of them and their families. We were okay on it. So, like, how's my persistency so high though? Because I don't have a financial advisor or a CFP or whoever trying to sell them out of this shit on the back end, because they're the ones that said, yeah, go ahead and do it in the first place.
Yep.
So to your point, I think but that's not the industry norm. There's a cultural issue in this industry where we're competing for dollars that should be in a brokerage account. Versus I like your strategy of don't compete for those dollars. Give it to them. In fact, introduce them to the RIA, introduce them to the FA, the CFP, the financial advisor or certified financial planner that's going to manage that for them. Make that introduction. Own it. Be that center of influence. So,
well, I was going to say, so let me ask you this. How often have you come across financial advisors who have their own insurance license as well? And
almost always, they almost always have insurance licenses and they don't use them, which tells me what a cuck they are. Like you have to be ignorant to not use your insurance licenses. as a
Yep.
financial advisor. You have to be jaded, and if you're jaded, you're not holistic.
AUM, AUM, AUM. That's all they
So
want.
there's a time and a place, and I will admit, too many dollars get forced out of active management, active financial planning into insurance. I admit that.
Yep.
However,
Yep.
you don't have enough financial advisors saying, hey, this is where we're done with that part, and we need to start insuring the wealth that we built. That because it is an insurance policy. We need to start insuring the wealth we built. We need to start adding
Yep.
levers, not just investing. So, as much as a lot of these financial advisors are like, hey, I've got a life insurance license and this, and so I'm not a one trick pony. It will one trick ponies do one trick things. Don't do one trick
Yep.
thing, and then you're not a one trick pony.
Well, I think the funny thing too is, so I've had a fight with a Raymond James guy who he
Mhm.
has his insurance license. I did my whole spiel on ILETs for this guy who's worth about 80 million. And, he piped up real quick. He's like, we're already good with that. And I was like, okay, then why am I on this call? And it was a policy review, old New York Life policy. And he's like, we just need you to find an option for this. And the reason why we got on the opportunity is because his cousin was the insurance agent. And so we're going through the whole process, and I recommend, carrier X. And they were like, oh yeah, that's what I recommended too. It was like, why did you recommend it? Because like Crump told you to, or because you actually know. So I tell people now, especially the agents that I partner with, because you're going to come across FAs, especially when you deal with big cases. You're going to deal with financial advisors who are going to say, well, why are you doing that with them? I can do it too. So I'm like, you don't go to a dentist to have your heart checked out, do you? Why would you go to someone who has just the license to just have the license? When you go to a specialist, you go to a cardiologist to have your heart checked out. I'm the cardiologist for the insurance industry. You got 30 carriers, blah, blah, blah. So I'll work in concert with your financial advisor, explain exactly what's going to happen, but they're good for that, X, Y, and Z. I'm good for this. And we're here ultimately to help you. And what it's happened is it's taken the blinders off and helped me win some cases without offending financial advisors' integrity, to say the least.
Dude, that exact case actually sounds like a case I was working out of Tennessee, out of Bristol, Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
Had a
Right
good
across
old
the road
friend.
is Virginia, Bristol,
Uh-huh.
Virginia.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me it wasn't the same damn case. Was this guy's name Chad?
No, no, guys in
Literally, it was
Texas.
Raymond James, same shit. And no, it wouldn't be the same case because we ended up winning the case, and
Yeah.
we do 401k and simple IRA for their manufacturing plant there too. But no, it wouldn't be the same. But damn, it was just like tit for tat. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, it just seems like there's so many people like you, my dad. I love him to death. He's a registered investment advisor, and I tell him for years, I'm like, you should get insurance. You should get insurance to cover this and that. You did say you want to give your kids money when you die, right? And he's like, yeah, I'll just build up the investment. I'm like, that's a too a focus to drive your dollars today to eventually get to that when you could spend pennies to get it today in case something happens. But so many people are just so anti-insurance because they were burned once or twice by a multi-level marketer who comes in to talk about, for price term or stuff like that. And just like it's sad because there's so many good people in certain organizations, but I find that, like three-letter acronyms seem to kill our organizations or our opportunities more than they help them, to be quite honest. And that's kind of the stuff that I'm trying to shift the narrative of, because it just takes an army and like-minded individuals to really turn the page on this. And sadly, there's way too many crusty old white guys and not enough of us middle-aged gentlemen to kind of
Middle-aged
pick
white
up the
guys.
flag. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I know some good black folks. I know some good Indian
I've
folks. I know some good
yep.
Latino
My
business,
My
Hispanic.
organization is so diverse. And that's why I liked, when I was a wholesaler, I had, every type of nationality, race, creed, whatever. And, it's just amazing to see different patterns with different types of people, different organizations had different structures. And, I got to see it from a pretty cool lens before I decided to, take matters into my own hands. But, it's, I hate, to sound bad, white people are probably the most boring people to work with in the
Oh,
insurance
easily,
industry. It's
easily.
terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But like I could fight for a term case with pasties, or like there's people who really value insurance culturally speaking, and it's just a much more enjoyable conversation because they get it.
Dude. So trying to decide which I know the one I want to ask, and I know the other one I should ask. Damn
You
it.
could ask both. I don't care. I'm open
So
book.
the first one is this. We got talking about, all the really great folks across the different races that I do know. And I think there's pretty much every ethnic group or most ethnic groups. I think I've got somebody that I know at least one person pretty decently, except for one. But you mentioned that you did like an RVP role over Alaska, and so maybe you know them. I don't know any Inuits. Like I know some Native Americans down here in the lower 48 in the business.
Yeah.
Do you know any Inuit folks that
No,
have gotten in
because
the business? And
when I worked Alaska, and I've gotten to go there twice, which was really cool on the company dime, was when I was working with Edward Jones. So I was an internal wholesaler. My dude lived in Oregon, and he brought us up to Edward Jones for, they call it summer regionals. So everyone in the region comes to some place, and we got to go to Talkeetna, and you wake up and Denali's in the background, so it was
Talkeetna
really
or
cool.
Ketchikan or
Yeah, yeah, it was beautiful. And Eagle River, I forget what it was, but Anchorage is a cool city. Very like skyscrapers, not really, but like it's just a really cool city. And so I just went with financial advisors. Then when I went to AIG, I was like, why is your Pac Northwest person not going to Alaska? I was like, if you go twice, they're putty in your hands because no one goes there.
dude,
And
Alaska is an untapped opportunity.
I love it.
I've never like I started dabbling a little bit and then I got busy doing other things, but I keep thinking about it because I've got some friends up there that they fish out of Cordova. And in the last couple of years have been the last 5 years have been just fucking hitting me. It's been feast or famine.
Yep.
But there is some money in Alaska that people don't realize. Huge
They
money,
give
huge
you an annual
opportunity in the business.
stipend. They
Oh
give you an
man.
annual stipend. What if you use that as a LERP sale, or like what we lost a life insurance retirement plan or a LERP sale to a guy because he wanted his annual four-wheeler. And we're like, are you kidding me? But they get paid to live there, a stipend, and you just sit there and you're like, what could you leverage that asset towards that you normally wouldn't? And, I've seen some things, like, I'll be honest, when we went up there in the summer, June was fantastic. But the Merrill Lynch guy we were meeting in Anchorage wanted to meet at a finer establishment. It was called no, much greasier. They call it the ABC, Alaska Bush Company, Ladies of the Night, or,
Mm,
and so we're sitting up there, and I'm trying not to have a good time, of course, because it's, but
yeah,
anyway,
because of
these
all the
old,
pubes.
exactly, it's way too many. But the funny thing is like you'll have guys up there who are coming back from their annual salaries in their hands because they
Yeah.
work half the year in the oil fields. And then they come home and they're just, getting lap dance after lap dance. And then before they go home to their family. And so you're sitting up there like, there's a
Are you
lot
trying
of
to teach them
money.
the IUL arbitrage game on lap dances?
It's kind of, I started dancing myself. I was like, well, if this is the case, there's got to be someone. I didn't get any money
Yeah,
though.
put a
It
couple
didn't work.
Benjis in my G string.
I know, right? I just started dancing, and they gave me money to put it back on. So
Mhm.
I guess it's a win. But no, it was an interesting experience, just understanding like how people basically get their annual salaries, like half a year's work. You kind of think of the same thing with the deadliest catch. And we went into a big Wells Fargo office. They have like 1 billion in AUM at this time. And they were saying how they have the Alaska, those guys for the TV show, some of their clients. I was like, why are we not writing insurance on them? They said, Phil, do you understand what it takes to stay up for 48 hours? It's like, say no more. Say no more. So, there's
Yeah.
some
You
interesting stuff
underneath
out
that and it
there.
comes back in the piss, you can't even buy a
Yep.
policy for 7 6 7 years, depending on the carrier.
The booger sugar.
Oh, dude.
But yeah,
I had,
it's crazy place.
I had a client, actually a good friend. We were underwriting a case on, and he delayed his paramed multiple times and then went and decided to have his 25th birthday or something like that. And they did it in Vegas. He lived in San Diego. And for the first time in his life, he decided to try some booger sugar. Got home and did his paramed the next day. and literally got like people think, oh, well, it's just that one carrier. No, these carriers all talk to each other. They all talk
What
to
are
each
you
other. He's got a
thinking?
flat 6 year ban. And after 6 years, you know this, they
What
gave
it
flat
is?
extras. Oh, flat extras for like another 10 years because of one day of booger sugar.
Like a $20.
Oh my gosh, dude. I was like, you freaking
I just
idiot.
I just never I mean everyone thinks I'm a pothead because of the way I sound and I've never touched this stuff. Like for me, the idea of losing control just scares me more than anything. And so I the first time I ever got drunk I was 27. It was like and that was an accident because we would go play hockey and then we would go to the bar after because they would give us free food and you know me, I'm a big fan of food, you know. So free food nonetheless, all you have to do is order beer and we're just watching Sunday Night Football and next thing you know I can't stand up and so my friend had to drive me home. So it was just like that was the first time I was ever drunk. It was like 27. And you know, just some of that stuff, I don't get how people do it. I don't. More power to you if you try it, and it is what it is.
I had a lot of times in high school just getting blackout, fucking drunk, dancing around a bonfire in nothing but my Fruit
Skivvies.
Loop. Yeah.
Yep. I wanted those like memories and those opportunities. Like even
It
at
wasn't the
14, I
worst.
remember going to a hockey party. Everyone's drinking and having a good time, and I'm sitting there like, I'll have one, a Budweiser, and it's just like this stuff tastes like piss, but everyone else is having fun, and I was just like, I don't get it, or I
Dude,
didn't
I
at the
remember the
time.
first time I had whiskey. I remember the first time I had whiskey was Crown Royal, actually, which is at this point in my life, that's like drinking butter. But back
Hmm.
then, I was in my teens, not even like my old teens.
Yep.
I was 14, 15, and but I remember drinking it. We'd taken it out. We were doing a bonfire, and one of my buddies had scored a bottle, and I'd scored a 30 rack of the buds, and so we go to sip this whiskey, and we think we're gonna be little gentlemen. So rather than mixing or anything like that, we just go to sip it, and everyone's sitting there like, oh, and I was like, I think I might be the first one to say it. This tastes like pure fucking gasoline.
That's what
Like at this point, it tastes like I can get all the notes and all the. But up to that
hmm
point in my life, I'd been like 3 pints of cherry Kool-Aid.
I was gonna say, what was the first like hard liquor that you went through? I have a theory, but before I say it, I'm curious what was the first hard liquor you had?
It would have been a whiskey. Yeah,
Was it really?
yeah, yeah. Would have been a whiskey for sure.
That's hardcore because like for me it was the rum and cokes. So
We
Malibu
did a
rum and
lot of
coke.
rum and cokes back then too, but whiskey was the first that we had. Rum and coke was probably the first we got used to drinking good, and then
Yeah.
vodka and monsters. We used to like buy a monster, drink half of it, and then top it back off with vodka. And we're talking
Mhm.
like the pop off, like you can get a handle for $7.
Yeah, not the good, not the good stuff. That
No.
was the big thing was Jaeger bombs. You know, when I was in
Mhm.
college, you know, that got real popular. And just looking back now, like I tried a Jaeger bomb, I think last year, and for the first time in forever, and I was like, I feel like I'm gonna have diabetes. You know, just drinking a licorice sweet tart, and it's just like, you know, it was just god awful. So I sit back and I say, what the hell did I see in those, you know, at the time? But, you know, whiskey now, I'm a big old fashioned guy. Old fashions, started getting to Manhattans and just straight up, you know, if you nice and neat and whatnot. But, you know, I like a little bit of the sweet, so the old fashioned is quite
Old fashioned.
enjoyable.
Have you ever had a Vietnamese vampire?
Sounds like the start of a joke. And
No.
the fact that you're laughing, it does it suck?
No, it's code for a sex thing. You don't want to know. It is not a drink. Well, no, old fashions are tasty. I like an old fashioned. I found for me as I'm getting older, I really keep it simple. I really like sticking to whiskey. I love beer, but it makes my titties grow.
I get the with too much beer, so like I'll wake myself up at night sometimes with that. So I stopped doing IPAs because it's just like
Dude, I love beer, but it does make my titties grow. So these days, like, also have a beer now and then, but if I'm gonna have it, I want a hard IPA. Like, I want a sour. I want something that's sitting at like 9.5. I want something good. If I'm gonna do it, it might as well be good, or a Guinness. If
yes,
I'm gonna drink a light beer, I might as well just keep sipping whiskey. Like,
yeah.
what's the point?
Yeah. Well, gets the job done quicker and you know, less filling, but tastes great. You know, I think if if I'm drinking Guinness, would probably be a top dog up there for
Mm.
consistency, low-cal, and just overall good. But then this is gonna sound really stupid, but I've started to deviate away from like the funky ones, and I'm just like, you know what? Coors, Miller Lite, just real shitty,
If I'm gonna
macro
drink a light
beers.
beer, yeah, Miller Lite or Natty Lights, Coors
Yeah.
and Bud Lights, Coors Light and Bud Light. I don't know what it is. I feel like shit every time I drink those.
Yeah, Miller's probably the go-to for me. But I mean, I found out 2 years ago, no, last year, that Miller and Coors are the same company. And I was like, it just baffled my mind. And I was just in Dallas. One of my business partners invited me to, because he used to be in beer distribution. He was like the biggest beer distributor in Texas. And he invited me to the Miller party at the Cowboys practice field. And straight up, they had Miller, Coors. They had the Simply lemonades with alcohol in them, and then they had one that I was surprised was part of the organization. God, I'm gonna hate myself because I'm gonna leave you hanging. I forget the name.
Yoo-hoo? It was fucking
Yeah,
Yoo-hoo's, wasn't it?
Yoo-hoo. Would Yoo-hoo and vodka actually be good?
Actually, it kind of sounds nice.
I was gonna say, my uncle, he actually did poured vodka over vanilla ice cream and chocolate ice cream. It's a pretty solid win right there.
Yeah.
I'd never had it before, and I was just
Dude,
like, this thing is amazing.
you're tripping me out though, because Miller Lite and Coors Light does not even taste remotely. So Coors Light, Colorado, Miller Lite, we're talking Milwaukee.
Yep.
Like it is
They're
two
dead.
different.
They're scissor sisters. They are together, and it surprised me too. It surprised me too. But
Just same
they
parent company.
merged.
It's not the same recipe for sure.
Oh God, no. But they merged, I think they merged like 2 years ago, something like
Yeah.
that. So, but you'd be amazed at like who Bud owns, like Goosehead up in Illinois. And I was like, oh, this is a great, off the mill, company, this and that. And then you're like, Budweiser. I was like,
Dude,
fuck,
I'm actually
like,
really, really glad Budweiser didn't go out of business, like with their whole shit that went down a few years ago. Like,
yep,
it is what it is, and protest what you will, but it's an American
yep.
institution. We're talking about tens of thousands of jobs. I'm here in Idaho Falls, and like we have huge Budweiser silos here, like massive. A lot of people don't realize we grow more than potatoes here.
That's a lie. That's a lie.
Oh, you shut the fuck up. No, I'm glad they didn't go under. They're an American institution. And when we're talking about a non-light, I never loved Bud Light. I'd take a Coors over a Bud and a Miller
Hmm.
over a Coors. Miller Light, in my opinion, Miller Light and Natty Light is the best. Those are the two best light beers, in my opinion. Ultra's okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
they literally are called Molson Coors North America. I just looked it up. So they've got this will blow your mind. Crispin Cider, Dominion Ale, Foster's,
Foster's.
Killian's.
Foster's is like what you get when it's 2 a.m. and the only gas station open is the one that has Foster's. It's
Yep.
either that or a Mickey 40 can.
I'll
You
take the
know that.
Foster's.
Dude,
Yep. You got Keystone, Kugels, Milwaukee's Best, obviously. Molson, Red Dog. You remember Red Dog? The Red's Apple Ale, St. Archer Brewing,
dude, Reds.
Terrapin.
Speaking of Reds, and actually, I prefer an Angry Orchard over Reds,
Yeah,
but
I do too.
Reds with, I would say a shot because I think that's the recipe. But what I'm actually saying is, like for me, I want like 3 or 4 shots. I want like Fireball and not even Fireball, just a good cinnamon. Actually don't like Fireball. A good cinnamon whiskey with some apple ale, dude.
Yeah.
That's a good
So
holiday drink.
sounds like what I'm gonna have after this call. Have you been to the Jack Daniel's brewery here?
I haven't. I have, dude, you can't see it here, but actually, I've got a guitar hanging on the wall, and I have a bourbon that my guitar holder is from the Jack Daniel's distillery, and it's all cut out, and I've got a whole little
Yeah.
certificate next to it, but I haven't been.
So,
Dude, we did Nashville last year for my mastermind, our upper level, we call it Inner Circle.
oh,
We did Nashville. And so we were all there. We stayed. What was that place even called? It was right off Broadway. It was a cool spot. I'd never been there
the
before.
Omni.
No, it wasn't. I've been at Omni's. It was, I want to say it was a local place. Maybe starts with an S.
Oh, I always stay at the Omni when we had AIG conventions in Nashville.
What was the
I
name of
stayed
that?
at
I'll have to
Omni's.
look it up. I'll send it to you. It was a cool spot. It was right off of 25th. And God, it's been a year. Dude, it was a
I'll
cool
say.
fucking spot though. But no, we put it out there. We were like, hey, we can do the Jack Daniels thing, or we can go hit this winery. And everybody else voted, not everybody, but vote, and they voted for the winery. But dude, we actually had a good damn time because half of them didn't drink,
Really?
and so half of us got all the drinks.
Was it
And
Arrington Vineyards? Did you go to Arrington?
maybe you'd have to ask. My wife is our event planner, our event coordinator. She set it up. I pre-gamed, I post-gamed, I game
As you
gamed.
should, as you should. Well, I was gonna say, first off, if you come back, holler,
Bro,
and then two, the Jack Daniels is definitely it's an hour and a half away. One, it's worth it. Two, it's a dry county, so the only way they can sell it is by calling it a gift. And three, the thing that I learned about, because you talked about Fireball and flavored whiskeys, is the reason why they're flavored is they're the shit. They're the worst part of the whiskeys. So they get their
mm.
single barrels and everything, and then what's left over, they combine them all together and put a flavor in them so they can still sell them.
Well, and
So I'm
most of
like,
the flavors aren't even whiskeys anymore. They're technically liqueurs because the alcohol content, they're like
so
30%
little.
and the sugar content's
Yeah.
higher.
Yeah.
Dude, the
Like the
winery
honey
we
one.
went to literally coined, so in Rev, you've seen Rev around at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah. Yep.
Peter Wood, I don't know if you've met Peter yet. You need to. Peter's salt of the earth, good dude. We like to
Okay.
keep track of just funny shit people say, and then we put it on a shirt.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, so one of the sayings actually came from that winery in Nashville. And it was something like, Peter, we literally just talked about this last week. What shirts do we want to put out this next year? And it was something like, smells like cranberry juice goes down like a tire. And it was a local wine, some local berry or something y'all have there. And it smells
I
really good, but it tastes like a fucking tire. And it was spot on with that.
think you need to put on the shirt the clean asshole.
Oh, dude, we might put a clean butt.
Yep. Bidets, wipes, clean
Wash
butts.
that ass.
Wash that
I don't know, man.
out.
All right, dude. So we're winding down here. I have a few questions I really want to get to,
Okay.
and then you can have your Friday back. You can go do some shit.
Right. Yay.
First question: what was the absolute most devastating moment in your entire life?
So that's a good one. Merit? No, I'm just kidding. No. So, couple things I would think. So, people who know me know I hate planes. I'm afraid of heights. And my fourth ever flight, I was flying back from Dallas to Connecticut, and we hit an air pocket so hard my head hit the ceiling. And so it's kind of emotionally traumatized me anytime I get in a plane where if there's any type of turbulence, I get like freaked out. And so, but I will not let a fear get in the way of an opportunity. So I still fly places a lot, but it does impact me. There's that. And then thankfully and not thankfully, I haven't had many deaths on my side of the family, but when the first one hit, it hit really hard. And it was just like, stuff like that was just, kind of a weird situation to go through, especially being in the insurance industry. That would be the probably the most devastating thing is actually witnessing it from the standpoint of it was my grandparents, like my grandfather, and then watching my grandmother go through long-term care in Medicaid facilities. And then ultimately, I talk about this in stories because our industry is about stories. My grandmother wanted my mom to sing her bedtime song, and my mom was so pissed because she was treating her like shit. And my mom was like, just go to bed and slammed the door behind her and didn't realize those were the last words she'd say to her mom. So it's like, stuff like that just kind of hits hard when you talk about stuff that you do in your industry, why you want to change things. It's the internal process of because you don't want someone to suffer like you did hearing these stories. And that's one of the things I think is a big part of our industry. You got to have, you got to be tough as nails to handle a lot of rejection and understanding that people don't want your solution or story, but there's trying to resolve some type of pain through every story that you tell, and then someone rejecting you can be hard. So I think, from a personal standpoint, like something that's ongoing is the fear of flying and the annoyance of that. But the devastating part would be probably, the passing of actually I would say my grandmother more than my grandfather. So that'd probably be it. I can think of off the top of my head. There's plenty of shitty stuff that's happened to me, but I'd say that's probably the worst one.
Do you own a Prius yet?
No, I did have a Versa, a Nissan Versa, and everyone made fun of me because I would look like a clown in a clown car, just like,
When they had a shitty transmission, those Versas. That
yeah. Oh,
CVT. Versa
it
was like the
actually,
first one to come out with a CVT mainstream here in the US. Thing
and
was a
it
piece of
actually happened. I was bucking, but it didn't trigger that I had a transmission issue. And fortunately, it was still under warranty because it would have cost me $20,000 to fix. They charged me for the taxes, which was still 6 grand. But the fact of the matter is the CVT got jacked up and it was only 60,000 miles. After that was fixed, it was fine, but no pickup, no nothing. So when I went independent and started doing okay, my CPA was like, "Hey, you gotta get some type of deductions." And I was like, "Can I buy a new car?" And she's like, "Sure." So now I have an Audi Q5, which I love. I love the car. Being German, Audi's German, and Resch. So I went with hometown pride.
dude. Fucking hell. Fucking hell. Audis. My God. You know what? It's
I
okay.
I drove so back in the day, I was a valet parker. So I would park cars at a place called Roncari. It was across from the airport in Connecticut, and I was third shift. So we would front cars, bring them up front from the back lots for people who are coming back. So it's easier for first and second shift to get people their cars. So I would always look for specific cars to drive. The cars I cannot stand, I hate Volvos because back at that point, all they were those boxy station wagons, and
Mhm.
they always smelled god awful. So I have a stigma against Volvos, and you're probably gonna hate me for this because it's more of an outdoorsy car, but the Jeep Wranglers,
Yeah, I don't
I
hate you. I don't love Jeeps.
okay,
I
good
grew up
because
fixing cars. I don't love Jeeps.
yeah,
Won't buy.
I couldn't get into one good Jeep Wrangler, but my wife loves Jeep Wranglers because I mean, it's like the
They're
cheerleader car, you
cute.
know? Yeah, exactly. I liked as a young lad, 18, 19, 20-year-old, I would ironically look for the Mitsubishi Eclipses because
Oh,
they
dude,
were
I love
fast.
those old
Oh
Eclipses.
yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
remember the Eagle
And then
Talons based off the
mhm.
Eclipses? Oh shit.
Yup, yup. And then I would look for Jaguars because they had circular keys and Audis were fast. So I enjoyed them. But funny story, I got so tired of working third shift, but my parents said I couldn't quit. I had to get a new job before I could quit. So I tried to find a way to get fired for a stupid reason. So I wore shorts or when you were supposed to wear pants. I wore I wore, cargo pants when you're supposed to wear just regular khakis, and that didn't get me fired. So they hired a rent-a-cop to monitor the third shift for speeding. And so one time I was speeding in an Audi, and the rent-a-car pulls up. He goes, "What's your name?" I said, "It's Philip Resch, Lipresch, because I was hoping they would have fired me for a stupid reason like speeding in a parking lot. My boss pulls me in. He says, the parking guy says Bill was speeding, and we have no bills, so I'm assuming it's you." I was like, "God damn it! Like I can't even get like everyone always says Bill instead of Phil," and I'm like, "Yeah, it was me." He's like, "Phil, I'm not gonna fire you." I'm like, "Why not?" And now I think because when you're a business owner and you fire someone, they start collecting unemployment and they'll stay on unemployment. They're trying to avoid that. So they're waiting for me to say I quit. I'm waiting for them to say fire, you're fired. And then finally I got a temp job working at Cigna as a data tester. And I remember speeding through in my old Plymouth Reliant and I go, "Hey Brian, I quit," and then peeled off and went to the Dunkin' Donuts across the street. It was the best thing ever, but that's why I like the Audis. I had
Why
good
an Audi?
experiences in them. Yeah, I know
Damn,
they're
dude.
expensive to fix though. I
No,
don't want to.
Audis are nice cars. I'm just giving you
Yeah,
shit.
I
Just
know.
giving you
It's okay.
shit.
It's
All
okay.
right, dude. Last question, and we'll wrap this up. You ready for this?
Rock and roll.
Marry, fuck, kill. No, I'm joking. No, 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 no. If, God forbid, we wrap this up, you decide you're gonna walk your geriatric ass out to pick up the newspaper, and you bend over, you pick it up, and some little douche in an Audi comes just cruising by, clips you, you're dead.
Yep.
And you had right now, this was your last opportunity, whether it's the family watching, friends, people you don't even know yet. This is your last opportunity to provide any amount of impact to this whole world. What would you want to share?
Golly, that's deep. So let's see. So many different things. Honestly, it's the things that I've learned over even the last 2.5 years of ownership of, Valor and growing the business is, remember why you do what you do. Because from my standpoint, I built this organization to give my kids a better life. I built this organization to give my wife a better life and make a difference. But oftentimes, and my wife doesn't think I hear her, but she says, are you working to work or are you working for the family? And I sit here and I say, well, I'm working for the family, but you got to enjoy the time with the family. So, yes, you have to work to, feed the family and everything, but remember what you are doing everything for. Understand that there's a higher purpose and a higher calling for what you do things for. Don't lose sight of it and chase dollars, but just remember the overarching reason as to why you're doing what you do is, I think, probably the most important thing that I could ever think of. It's kind of, I feel like the epiphany hit, but it's one of those things where everyone chases something and they just forget to slow down and understand what they have in front of them is probably more important than, anything that they're chasing. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. So if this was the last thing they'll ever see, I love you all, and that would be probably my best advice.
Dude, it's good stuff. Where can folks find you if they want to come follow Phil or check out Valor, or whether they need some financial services, or maybe they want to provide financial services? Where would they find you at?
Yeah, so I have a few tags on Facebook. There's financial
Asshole.
specialists. Yeah, right. Soon. So there's Valor Financial Specialists is the company name because there's Valor Financials out there, there's Valors out there, so it's financial specialists. It's got a little V and a blue logo. And then I have on Instagram, it's at Valor Financial. YouTube, it's at Valor Financial. And for consumers, I created an own moniker of Monotone Magic. So it's at Monotone Magic on Instagram. But yeah, or Phil Resch on Facebook. So I would
Not
love to,
Bill.
huh?
Not Bill Resch.
Not Bill. Definitely not Bill. But yeah, I would love to connect with anybody. Phil at valorfs.com as well. And would just love to connect with people who want to share like-minded opportunities and customers who need help. I'm always here to help. So text, call, email, carrier pigeon. That's what I always like to say. I'm here to help any way that I can.
Dude, I love it, man. Anything else you want to share before we close it out?
No, just want to say thank you for the opportunity to get a voice. And, I know we started talking a little more, well, this year, really, but, it's amazing that we've never met before, but halfway across the country, but, very relatable and look forward to future conversations as well. And see you in May for my collaboration event. If any agents want to go, tgcconference.com is the website. It stands for The Great Collaboration. It's designed for people to come, knowledge share, learn, grow. And, if there's a silo that Valor has to offer, we're here to help, but it's not meant for recruiting. It's all meant for knowledge share. So tgcconference.com, May 3rd and 4th in Dallas. So would love to see anybody there. Registrations will open up in the new year.
Love it, dude. Love it. I appreciate you being here, man. Thank you so much for your time.
You got it, homie. Have a good one, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. We'll see ya.
Later.